The story begins with a window asking if the MC was tired of his boring life and would like to start a new one, but he closes it, thinking it's spam. He was frustrated with so many ads on manga pages. His name was Lin Shio, and he was a 21st century otaku. He hadn't found work in weeks, and his room was a mess. It looked just like mine. He continues clicking and browsing the internet, when something catches his attention. A black hole appears on his screen and simply pulls him inside. He's falling, screaming in panic, trying to understand what's happening. The system starts sending notifications, congratulating the MC for making the right decision, and says the God class system will serve him faithfully. The MC screams that he didn't even have a choice in this whole thing and even manages to tear one of the system screens, which honestly made me laugh. The year was 2696 on Earth, and we're at Starlight Academy. Earth had been invaded by aliens, and humanity used nuclear bombs to eliminate the enemies. But the X-virus, they left behind contaminated humanity, causing zombies and beasts to roam the Earth, tormenting humans. From then on, Earth's martial artists emerged and became the most respected warriors. That's when a man calls out the MC's name. His name was Ma Chang, and he was Lin Shio's roommate, a level 29 warrior at Starlight Academy. He sees the MC still lying in bed, and begins to strangle him, asking where the food he had ordered the protagonist to get was and if he wanted to see him pass out from hunger. Ma Chang throws the protagonist hard enough to break the wall, and the protagonist faints before even fully waking up. His roommates are shocked, thinking he might have gone to the other world, but Chang isn't concerned. He approaches Lin Shio and kicking him says the boy was just trash who didn't even have the gift of formation. It would be an honor for him to be sent to the beyond by Chang's hands. Lifting his foot, Chang says the MC hadn't brought him his food, which made him look bad in front of Soo-jun, so he deserved this and stomps on the MC's hands. The boy wakes up, still dazed from the stomp he received, and feels pain in his hand. He still didn't understand what was happening. He was in his room reading manga, so why was he getting beaten by someone he didn't even know? His vision was still blurry, and he sees the other boy pointing at him and saying he hadn't been sent to hell yet. Little by little, Lin Shio gathers the strength to get up, and Ma Chang says he has a lot of resilience, but the MC is still very confused by the situation. Kicking the protagonist's stomach, he says he's going to beat him until he's no longer alive, and his kick is powerful because the MC screams in pain immediately. Ketchup sprays, and once again, he flies to the wall, lying on the ground, almost fainting again. The protagonist wonders who has worse luck than him to end up like this. The boys begin beating him up, already planning his funeral right there, and shouting that he has no talents. The school director says that now that zombies and beasts are everywhere, someone as useless as him wouldn't survive even 3 days. He was lucky to still be studying there. Memories of mistreatment from everyone toward the MC come to his mind, calling him useless and a leech, wishing for his death. He didn't want to live anymore. If he stayed there, he wouldn't be able to bear it. Holding his bloody face, the MC leans against the broken wall, realizing that the body's previous owner had reasons not to want to live. This mess was in his hands now. Looking at his attackers, he thinks that tolerance does not exist in his vocabulary. Ma Chang looks back and notices that the protagonist's eyes were challenging him, so he shouts at the MC, asking who he thought he was, landing a critical hit on Lin Shio's stomach, and says he's just a loser with no reason to think he was anything. The protagonist says, "No," which angers Ma Chang even more. Kneeing Lin Shio in the stomach, he says he will beat the boy until he is convinced he's nothing. Punching the protagonist's face several times, Ma Chang repeatedly asks if he was convinced now, but the protagonist shouts that he would never be convinced, even if his attackers sent him to another life. Ma Chang has a very serious expression. Now he was truly angry at the MC. The MC was hurt and confused, trying to understand what kind of crazy reincarnation he had been sent into. The system informs him that it detected an accumulation of anger and displays his status. Then a window asks if he would like to unleash the accumulated rage. Ma Chang is yelling for the MC to go to hell already and charges to deliver a critical hit to him. The protagonist decides to use the rage discharge ability and prepares an attack. That connects with the other boy's fist, disintegrating the bones in Ma Chang's arm and sending him flying across the room, crashing into the wall and shocking the other students. One of the classmates looks back and starts screaming in panic, asking what happened and if Ma Chang was okay, though he's barely conscious. With a trembling voice, he asks to be taken to the infirmary quickly. If they delay, he might not even survive. The other students look at the MC, who, with an angry expression, asks why they were still there. The boys pick up Ma Chang in their arms and run out, afraid of getting beaten up as well, and I think that fear is totally understandable. The protagonist stops pretending he's fine and starts heading to the infirmary as well. The last attack had drained him, and he was out of energy. The system's notification window appears, saying he won a roulette spin for defeating an enemy using the rage discharge. The MC uses the draw, and the roulette appears spinning in front of him. He even hopes the reward will be union coins. Otherwise, the money he has saved won't be enough for him to heal. The roulette stops, and the prize he receives is 1,000 union coins. He breathes a sigh of relief for getting what he needed, and heads toward the infirmary. A voluptuous blonde looks at him, and asks if he's Lin. The protagonist asks if she knew him. She gets closer, saying that everyone knew Lin, who was at the bottom of the Starlight Academy rankings. This approach makes the MC blush. Still embarrassed, he asks her not to call him Lin, as it sounds bad. His name is Lin Xiao. She asks if he really doesn't want her to call him Lin, then touches his chest and says they'll talk about that later. She then instructs Lin Xiao to take off his clothes and lie on the examination table. The MC protests, startled, asking if he really had to take off his clothes. It was too embarrassing for him. But she tells him not to worry, he can keep his underwear on, though if he wanted to take everything off, she certainly wouldn't mind. How bold. He starts undressing, and the nurse comments that he wasn't in such bad shape, and mentions that he wasn't small. The MC is startled by this comment, and asks where she was looking. The woman was intimidating. If he didn't keep his composure, he might even lose his virginity right there. Does the MC think that would be a bad thing? He lies down on the table, and the nurse asks how much healing he wants, and he says he'll use 9,800 union coins. The previous owner of the MC's body was actually weaker than he had imagined, but from now on, he wouldn't let that happen ever again. The healing system informs him that the preparation is complete, and that it will take about 5 hours for him to be fully healed. The process begins, and, after 5 hours, the MC thinks he will be a new Lin Xiao. In Classroom 29, someone mentions that an exploration of Area 20 found 20 slots. It was the teacher speaking, and he continues, saying that all the beginners in martial arts in the class could join. The teacher asks where Ma Chang is, and a student responds that he's undergoing surgery in Area C. The teacher asks what happened, and a bald student replies that Ma Chang was beaten up by Lin Xiao and had all his ribs broken. He had taken a real beating. The students are shocked to hear this and ask how he managed such a feat. Was this story even true? The student who informed them about the surgery confirms the story, and says he saw it happen with his own eyes. The teacher interrupts the students and says they should forget about exploring Area 20, as Ma Chang wasn't in any condition to participate. The MC then enters the room in style, asking if he could participate in the exploration. Lin Xiao's classmates notice that he seems different from how he used to be, as if he were a completely different person from who he was yesterday. The teacher says that he shouldn't rush. Area 20 was dangerous. Before that, he needed to reach the initial rank before considering exploration. Another student, with a bully-like expression, calls the MC trash and asks if he's trying to get himself killed. The MC chuckles lightly, and asks if, by defeating the boy right there, he would be allowed to go. The boy, named Su Jun, also smiling, asks if he's going crazy and tells him to stop dreaming. The protagonist, confident, asks if he'd like to try then, and the boy confirms, hitting the table and calling the MC trash again. He would teach the MC a lesson to knock that arrogance out of him. The MC activates his evaluation ability, and sees that Su Jun is weaker than Ma Chang. He just needs to wait until his anger gauge is full and use that skill again. The protagonist says they should meet in the arena after class, and I wondered if the teacher was going to do anything about it. In the academy's arena, the other students are wondering how he dares to challenge an initial rank who is clearly better than him. A chubby boy, who seems to be the MC's friend, asks if he really plans to fight Su Jun, who is an initial rank in martial arts. But Lin Xiao says he doesn't need to worry. He's wanted to hit Su Jun for a long time, and this is an opportunity he doesn't want to miss. Su Jun asks how he still has the courage to step into the arena, and charges at him unceremoniously, saying that the MC is too arrogant and only knows how to talk. He would teach the boy a lesson. Lin Xiao defends Su Jun's strike with little difficulty but recognizes that the boy is strong. Even though he has healed, the strike still made him feel a bit of pain. The anger accumulation bar was already at 20%, and Lin Xiao starts dodging all of Su Jun's strikes. Su Jun shouts desperately for him to stop dodging and fight seriously. The MC wasn't concerned with his opponent's anger. He would continue with this strategy and wait for the anger points. The bar was charging, and the spectators of the fight started to insult the MC, saying he was just dodging while the teacher watched. The teacher thinks it wasn't shameful to just dodge. It was merely a fighting strategy he hadn't considered before. Su Jun, who seems much bigger than the protagonist, calls him an idiot and attempts a horizontal strike, which Lin Xiao easily dodges. The bar had finally maximized, and he could use the rage release. The system asks if he wanted to use the skill, and the MC promptly replies yes, while Su Jun is winding up for another strike, ready to knock the protagonist out. Lin Xiao also prepares a strike, and, just like with Ma Chang, their fists collide in the arena. Soo-jun goes flying backward, and falls out of the arena, leaving everyone there stunned by what had just happened. It was impossible. There was no way something like that could happen, the weakest student defeating one of the strongest. Soo-jun rises amid the dust, cursing the protagonist even more. But unfazed by the insults, the MC asks what being defeated by trash made him. The teacher tells them to take Soo-jun to the treatment room, saying not to let this affect the exploration of Area 20, and a side character complies. They carry a humiliated Soo-jun out of the arena, while he is still full of rage over what happened. The teacher says he's impressed with the MC's accomplishments, and the MC asks if he can now participate in the Area 20 exploration. At the exploration site, the city was completely taken over by a deadly virus and abandoned by humans. It was a northern city filled with monsters, but since risk and reward are equal, many venture into the area to collect parts of animal and monster bodies, as they are valuable materials, and their brains contain a magic crystal that helps martial artists in cultivation, and this is highly valuable to everyone. The teacher says that everyone there has received training. Using the suits and weapons the academy provided, they shouldn't have issues dealing with the monsters. This was real, totally different from what they had done in training, so they would need to conquer the fear in their hearts, or else they would be killed. The students would be evaluated solely based on the combat experiences they gained there, and this would make them much stronger. The red-haired friend of the MC asks if he's scared since he seems nervous, but Lin Xiu is actually excited. It would be a great experience for him. There were 20 students there, so they were supposed to split into groups of 4, and they shouldn't go too deep because they wouldn't be able to defeat the monsters there. With a shout, the teacher says it's now their decision what to do next. The students then split up and head out on the exploration. The MC was grouped with his chubby friend and 2 other extras who were telling him not to be a burden on this exploration. But the protagonist's friend warns them to be careful and not to cry when the zombies show up. Lin Xiu tells everyone to shut up because something had moved in front of them. Nervous, the 2 extras stay silent, and a strange dust appears in front of them. The MC tries to analyze what's happening and warns the others that something is coming toward them. Something moves at insane speed. It's a strange monster, with purple veins on its body, a rank 1 zombie with several special abilities. The system warns that it has sharp teeth, a poisoning effect, and 380 combat power. The protagonist realizes that even a low-ranking zombie like that had far greater abilities than his own. He only has 291 combat power. The other students are ready but don't move. Lin Xiu knows he needs more power and experience, so he prepares his attack, managing to slice the monster vertically in half. The system informs him that he defeated a monster and earned 200 experience. He reached level 2 and gained 2 potential points. The MC decides to put those points into strength and now has 38 points. Someone shouts for Lin Xiu to be careful, and when he looks back, 3 more zombies are attacking him at the same time. An extra tells him to move aside and charges into the attack. With a chain strike, he manages to cut the 3 monsters, chopping them into several pieces. Even though he's an extra, this guy was also strong, as we can see. The purple-haired guy says that's what he'd expect from Brother Zhang Yi as he wipes the green fluid off his sword. He looks at the MC and says that he only knows how to stand there, waiting to die. The protagonist is furious for having his experience points stolen but then calms down. He tells them to keep moving deeper into the area, and the others decide to go with him. They walk for a while in silence, not encountering any monsters, until a step on the ground catches Zhang Yi's attention, who immediately attacks a monster. The MC shouts that it's the zombie leader, and he needs to kill it with a single blow, otherwise it'll call other zombies. Zhang Yi doesn't seem to care about this information, and says that trash like the MC has nothing to teach him in this situation. The boy lands a hit that tears off the monster's arm but doesn't defeat it instantly. He had aimed to finish it completely, but the monster dodged the attack, and starts screaming for help, letting out a deafening roar. Zhang Yi backs off while the monster continues to cry out for the lesser monsters, and they begin to rise from the ground and various other places. Apparently, hundreds of zombies had been summoned to that location. The students were completely surrounded, 4 against countless monsters. Zhang Yi panics, seeing the number of monsters, but he doesn't want to be buried there, so he grabs his weapon and runs, fleeing from the monsters in fear. The red-haired friend tells the MC that there are too many monsters here, they should flee as well. But Lin Xiu thinks that this is exactly what he wanted. If he can destroy all these zombies, he might be able to level up multiple times in a row. The protagonist then charges into the attack, and the chubby friend shouts, asking if he'd gone crazy. The protagonist summons his positive thoughts, and his eyes even start to glow, as he begins the massacre, slicing through multiple zombies at once. The chubby friend is terrified watching all this and wondering if this is really the Lin Xiu he knew. Why was he risking his life? A zombie appears, attacking the redhead from the side, startling him. but he decides to help the MC and cuts off the monster's head with a single blow. The two decide to fight together and survive all this. If they survive, will the redhead lose some weight from all this cardio? The zombie leader attacks the protagonist from behind, and he didn't notice until it was too late. The zombie knocks him to the ground, and his friend shouts his name. The monster begins roaring, pinning the protagonist down, and he's struggling to get out from under it. That surprise attack really caught him off guard, but the system window starts informing him that he has gained several potential points. He had leveled up 3 times, gained 12 potential points, and decided to put them all into strength, bringing it up to 50 points. The veins in the MC's arms bulged with the sudden injection of strength into his attributes. The MC grabs the leader zombie's head with both hands and, with a light chuckle, he twists its head, snapping its neck and defeating the zombie leader with just one blow. The blow was so surprising that the zombie leader looked shocked, its head twisted completely backward, as if it couldn't believe what had happened. The protagonist lifts his leg and kicks the monster, knocking it backward, finally finishing it off. Lin Xiu picks up his sword again and finally severs the monster's head. The system informs him that he's reached level 6 and gained the gene chain system along with 6 potential points. The protagonist checks his stats and sees that his rage release bar was full, but he wouldn't need to use it because all the monsters there had been completely annihilated. He notices that his combat power had only risen to 380 and thinks that this growth was less than expected. This new system that appeared was one he'd read about in a book. It rarely appeared for others because they weren't capable of using their maximum potential. It was like an internal potential that allowed the user to exceed their limits when unlocked. He could even become godlike with this power. The MC wonders how strong he could become if he managed to unlock the first genetic chain. So he asks the system to unlock it for him and taps the window to activate it. The system window turns red, and a warning appears, informing him that he was below level 15. So he wouldn't be able to unlock the gene chain, which leaves the protagonist stunned. He accepts the situation and thinks he just needs to level up more to meet the requirements to unlock the gene chain. The chubby friend arrives behind the MC and asks if he's still the same Lin Xiu he knew because he had suddenly become very strong. He had even managed to kill the zombie leader. The protagonist says the zombie was weak, and the chubby friend says that just one compliment was enough for him to start acting cocky. The MC tells them to keep moving forward, and the chubby friend agrees, following him. They arrive at a place with a sign indicating that the area is restricted to initial rank martial artists only. The redhead asks if they should go in, and the protagonist comments that this was the area the teacher warned them not to enter. The MC starts thinking about it because they had walked for a while without encountering more zombies, so they hadn't gained any more experience. While he's still calculating the risks, the chubby friend starts trembling with terror and calling the MC's name. There was a snake, and it was simply gigantic. It was rank 3 and had abilities that the system couldn't currently show the protagonist. The protagonist shouts that it's an evolved monster, and is shocked that the system couldn't analyze the python. Amidst the ruins, the MC hides, and apparently, the snake had already left. He still needed to stay alert in case it returned because it had the ability to camouflage with its surroundings, so he needed to be prepared. Someone shouts, interrupting his thoughts, telling him not to move and aiming an arrow at his face. 3 men ask him what he was planning by hiding there. Based on his clothes, they conclude that the protagonist is a Starlight Academy student, but Lin Xiu tries to throw them off, saying he's just a wanderer passing through. These guys were a squad of zombie and monster hunters. They were official martial artists, so there was no way the protagonist could beat them. One of them takes the protagonist's sword, saying he'd wanted one of those academy swords for a long time. The guy asks if they were planning to leave the MC there to die unarmed. Then the man attacks the MC with his own sword, saying he should go to hell right there since he'd be heading there anyway. Someone shouts to wait, and when the man who looks like an anthropomorphic rat turns around, the MC is pointing at something. The gigantic python had returned and was ready to devour whoever was in front of it, with its mouth wide open. With just one bite, it swallows half of the guy who had stolen the protagonist's sword and then lifts its head to finish devouring him. This wasn't like the frogs in Konosuba that only left people wet. This was real. The adults scream that it's the rank 3 python and warn everyone to be careful. One of them, who looks like Shikamaru's father, says they need to stay calm, as the scales and crystal from that monster could be sold for millions. The men get excited to defeat the snake and are already celebrating that they're going to get rich. The protagonist hid behind them all, watching to see what they would do. Some rank 1 martial artists dared to attack a rank 3 mutant monster. Did they really think getting rich was that easy? He needed to find a way to retrieve his sword and escape from there. He wouldn't get another chance. Where was his chubby friend? Someone lands a blow on the snake, piercing its skin, but the monster swings its tail and throws one of the men against a wall. A bald man jumps, wielding a long sword, and was already above the snake's head, ready to destroy it for good. When it spits venom at him, hitting his shoulder and immediately dissolving his clothes and skin with the acid, the Shikamaru lookalike yells that they should all attack the monster's 7 weak points, so they charge together toward the giant snake. After multiple hits, they finally defeat it, and the men are shouting in celebration at the monster's demise. One of them stands on the monster's head, while the protagonist is still hiding, observing everything. He turns and notices the protagonist's presence, then yells at him, saying he must have been the one to lure the monster toward them. He orders the MC to break down the snake's crystal and not try anything funny, or he'll end his life. The protagonist stands up and calls the commander a stupid, arrogant man trying to give him orders. He would do as he asked, but all the loot would be entirely his. The man shouts and curses at the protagonist, asking how he dares to try to rob him. The man charges at the boy, already swinging his sword, but the MC remains unfazed. Dodging the attack easily, he says the man was weakened, so he was no match for him. The protagonist then slashes the hunter with a single blow. The man's arm goes flying, and he panics. How dare he touch him? If he dared to do that again, he would hear from the Zhang family. Wasn't that the name of the guy who fled from the zombies? The protagonist says he's never heard of that name before and only knows that they're thieves, though I'm sure he's pretending to sound cooler. He prepares a strike with his sword, saying he won't let them go. The system notifies the MC that he gained 2,500 experience for defeating a rank 1 martial artist and has now reached level 7. He's excited because, along with 7 potential points for leveling up, he also received another roulette spin, which is great for him. He adds the points he received to speed and physique, to balance with his strength, but he won't do the spin yet, only when he's free. He starts searching for spoils from the monster, and it's his first time seeing a monster core, and it's from an evolved monster. He could use it for cultivation or even sell it for a good price. He also begins looking through the belongings of the men he defeated, and they had several interesting things too, so the MC takes some with him. After looting everything he could from the monster and the hunters, he decides to meet up with Yang Tian and the others. Venturing even deeper into Area 20, he reaches a danger zone, which makes him very nervous. Apparently, he had taken the wrong path. He would have to run because staying there wasn't an option. But a loud noise makes him cover his ears, and birds scatter, startled. Something incredible was appearing before him, an evolved rank 4 lightning leopard, another monster so strong that the MC's system couldn't analyze it. He had to run from there as fast as possible. But he looks back and sees someone else in the forest. A woman named Luoyi. With a name like that, she must be Kanye's cousin, was a rank 4 martial artist, so she must be very powerful. The MC hides to watch how the fight between the two would go. The leopard activates a kind of shield, and charges at the woman, who's in a very favorable position for us to watch. Without difficulty, the rank 4 hunter dodges the leopard's attack, and draws her sword, striking the monster right in the head. The blow sends the beast flying into a tree. The protagonist is impressed by the girl's strength, saying that one day, he'll be much stronger than her. The beast is badly injured, and the woman approaches it with her katana in hand. The MC wonders if the fight is already over, but the leopard hadn't given up yet. Summoning a kind of electric spirit bomb, the leopard roars at the woman, and she raises her sword in a defensive stance. The strike hits her squarely, sending her flying, and throwing her off a cliff. The protagonist looks in the direction she went, and wonders if she was dead. Lin Xiu thinks that the leopard had pretended to be dead just to fool the woman, and hit her with a critical blow. But that wasn't quite the case. It seemed more like a final attack before being defeated, like a self-destruct system. The protagonist realizes this is a huge opportunity to defeat the monster with the final blow to gain its experience. He stealthily approaches the monster, and prepares the finishing strike with his sword, already thinking about the money he'd make from selling a level 4 monster core, when he notices something, and looks behind him. Another rank 4 lightning leopard was right there. The MC had forgotten that these monsters often hunt in pairs, a male and a female, so he starts running, putting distance between himself and the two leopards. The leopard that hadn't fought roars in Lin Xiu's direction. The protagonist tries to run even faster, shouting that he wasn't the one who killed the female leopard's mate, but it's not as if she would understand. Immediately, the boy stops running, because he's reached a cliff, the same one the girl had been thrown off earlier. The leopard is right behind him, so he turns around with his sword in hand, telling the monster not to come closer or he'll cut it. The monster is already upon the protagonist, and he decides to jump off the cliff because he'd rather do that than end up as leopard food. Lin Xiu falls into a river, and apparently, the trees along the cliff wall reduced his falling speed and impact. He had survived. Looking to the side, he notices someone else in the river with him, and the girl was unconscious, floating in the water. She didn't look like she had been defeated, so the MC decides to approach her. He pulls her out of the river and realizes she's still breathing. Back in the forest, he places her beside a tree, and finds her very beautiful. She seemed to be around 17 or 18 but was already a rank 4 martial artist. She was probably some kind of genius in her family. For some reason, she reminded him of Ace Wallenstein from Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon. The MC's stomach growls loudly, and he remembers he hasn't eaten anything since the morning. The girl remains unconscious at the base of the tree. The river had fish, so the protagonist decides to fish there. The campfire is lit, with 3 fish roasting on a stick, and even without seasoning, the MC is enjoying the food. Something appears behind the protagonist, startling him. The girl's sword is beside him, and he yells in surprise, calling her crazy. She's still injured, asks why he has so few clothes on and what he did to her. He replies, desperate, that he pulled her out of the river. If it hadn't been for him, she would have drowned. She asks if he saved her. Linshio responds that she doesn't need to worry about offering her body as payment for saving her. The funny part is, it seemed like she would have preferred to pay him with her body, as she gets frustrated and calls him shameless. The boy notices that even while calling him shameless, her voice sounded nice, so he offers her one of the fish to eat. She looks at the fish and stays silent. Linshio says she's injured and can't heal out here, so she should eat to regain some energy. She stands with her sword in hand, leaning against the tree, and the MC introduces himself to her. She responds that her name is Luo Yu and demands to know what he wants with her. She doesn't like owing anyone, so he should tell her what he wants so she doesn't remain in debt to him, or else she'd end him. The protagonist asks if she's serious. He's her savior. He then says he wants to become as strong as her, and asks what she thinks of that, but she replies that his potential is too low. Linshio feels deeply hurt by this response and asks if she could avoid hurting him with her words. He has self-esteem too. Night falls, and the girl is sleeping far from the MC, while he sits beside the campfire. He looks excitedly at the system screen. After defeating the guy from the Zhang family, he received a roulette spin chance from the system. He asks the system to spin the roulette, and it starts to turn. Linshio was hoping to receive a weapon as a reward, but the roulette lands on 10,000 coins, which surprises the MC. However, in the end, it stops on Super Grand Prize, and the system informs him he received 100 birds facing the phoenix. He starts celebrating his big win. He has more luck in 2 gacha spins than I do as a pay-to-win. Now I'm jealous. Linshio receives a skill card designed for rank 6 and above, a cultivation skill for him. The skill was categorized into bronze, silver, gold, and diamond. The higher the MC's rank, the higher the skill's category and its power. The protagonist doesn't fully understand what it means and starts to think the system is tricking him. Now there's something green above his head. The green card floats down from his head to his hand, and when he looks at it, he realizes it's a cultivation skill, a precious item for him. He realizes the system wasn't tricking him, and says he forgives it, and the system even sends a laughing message. The next step now is to get a spear as a weapon. Back in the real world, the girl is watching the protagonist laugh by himself like he's lost his mind, and asks why he's laughing like an idiot. The MC is startled, and tells her it's nothing, hiding the card he received from the system. She looks to the side and asks if he heard any noise. The MC confirms he did. It seemed like someone was approaching where they were. The girl suggests it might be a group, but she just sits back down at the base of the tree. The protagonist remembers that there were still 2 guys with the commander he defeated, and tells the girl they need to leave immediately. They don't know if those approaching are friends or foes. Luo Yu was still injured and couldn't move well, so the protagonist offers to carry her. She tries to keep her pride, saying she didn't ask him to do that, and he says he's taking the initiative, but if it makes her uncomfortable, he could leave her there, and they wouldn't hold back on someone as beautiful as her. Yu tells him to shut up, and he starts running with her on his back. A few men approach and notice that people had recently been there, so they shouldn't be far. One of them says there must be another martial artist nearby, so they should find them and end their lives. Linshio tells Luo Yu that she's heavy, and should lose some weight. The girl protests, saying the weight is from her sword, not her. He stops running, and she asks why. There's a lot of dust in front of them. The protagonist activates the analysis ability, and sees a rank 2 monster ahead, a red viper, with a combat power of 670, an evolved monster. This monster was a bit much, the protagonist thinks, but the girl then offers him her sword. He realizes it's indeed an excellent sword when he holds it, but it's also really heavy. Linshio asks what material it's made of. The girl handles the sword with such ease it doesn't seem that heavy. She tells him to stop stalling and put her down to defeat the monster. He obeys and then wields the sword. Luo Yu warns him that the monster is very fast and specializes in fighting in the dark. He shouldn't move but should follow her orders. The viper charges. It's enormous, about 5 meters long. The protagonist can't even see the monster's speed. It's too fast, and it seems to be affecting his vision. She tells him to attack to the left, and he promptly obeys, But it seems he wasn't fast enough. The Viper charges at him. He raises the sword, aiming at its head. The strike is accurate, piercing the Viper's head. The MC is thrilled he managed to kill the monster, and says it was easily defeated by him. The girl comments that he still struggled too much to kill a mere rank 2 monster, which hurts the MC's feelings again. He starts shouting at the dead monster and flipping it off, tells it to try biting him again, because he'll tear out its core and sell it. The Viper's skin starts to tear, and its head suddenly separates from the rest of its body, startling the MC. The severed head bites the protagonist's arm, causing him to scream in desperation. He shakes his arm and manages to pull it free from the snake's bite. Still shouting at it, he stomps on the monster's head until there's nothing left but a lot of ketchup on the ground. Lin Xiu had been careless and forgot to wait for the system's confirmation of the monster's death, but now he wouldn't forget it again. He approaches the corpse to see if there's anything he could loot, and asks the girl why she didn't warn him that the Viper's head could detach. Luo Yu simply responds that he didn't ask. Lin Xiu's arm was red and injured, and it hurt a lot. He had been poisoned. His arm starts swelling, and he realizes the system had warned him that the Viper was poisonous, but he had forgotten that information. The protagonist's body starts heating up, and he begins to feel extremely itchy, which sends him into a panic. The girl remembers that this Viper's venom was also an aphrodisiac and made the body overly warm, and she wonders what she should do. Meanwhile, the poisoned protagonist turns to Luo Yu with affectionate, or perhaps excited, eyes. Lin Xiu moves toward Luo Yu, and she yells at him not to come any closer, covering herself with her arms. He asks what kind of poison this is because he doesn't understand what's happening, and simply kisses the girl on the lips. This MC is truly bold. He doesn't waste any time. Yu bites the MC's lip to the point of drawing blood, so he pulls back, covering his mouth. Wiping her face, the girl tells him if he doesn't move away immediately, she'll take him down. He begins apologizing, saying it wasn't his intention, and she tells him to go take a dip in the lake so he can cool off. He starts running toward the lake, apologizing repeatedly, saying he hadn't meant to do it. Lin Xiu dives into the water, feeling refreshed by the nighttime swim. He starts thinking about the kiss he gave you. She was so soft and smelled nice. Looks like the MC is already smitten. Everyone. The girl sits beside the tree, wondering why he's taking so long to return. Someone is hiding in the bushes and has spotted you. She senses the man's presence, stands up, and wields her sword, telling him to leave or head straight to hell. The blonde man asks if she thinks she has the strength to do that, and 3 more men appear behind him. He says they saw her fall off the cliff when she was attacked by the lightning leopard. He licks his lips, saying she must be the heiress of some great family, and he's been wanting to taste someone like her for a long time. She calls him disgusting, and attacks the blonde, screaming for him to die. He sticks out his foot to trip her, and Yu falls to the ground like a sack of potatoes. The man tells her to keep quiet because his brothers would treat her very well. The blonde orders his allies to hold her down. She screams, asking if he still dares to touch her, even knowing she belongs to a powerful family. He responds that tasting an heiress like her is worth it, even if he dies, and besides, no one would come to this restricted area where they are. He goes on to say that once he's satisfied, he'll dismember her and throw her to the leopards, eliminating any evidence of what they did to her. She yells for them to let her go, and finally, the MC arrives, calling out to the men and asking if they want to die. The blonde asks who he is. The protagonist identifies the blonde as Zhang Liang, a rank 2 martial artist with a combat power of 1540, specializing in swords. Li Hong, rank 1. Li Si, also rank 1. The men are startled by the MC's ability to identify not only their names but their combat power and skills. The MC says he'll give them 5 seconds to disappear, otherwise, they'll never leave this place. The men run off in a panic, obeying the protagonist's order and leaving Luo Yu behind. He approaches her and asks if she's okay, and she, impressed, asks how he knew their information. The MC says that's his secret, then lifts her onto his back, saying they should leave quickly before more trouble comes. The men talk to Zhang Liang, saying they returned to the spot, but no one was there. They had fallen for the protagonist's trick. Liang punches a tree in anger, calling the MC an idiot for deceiving him. But who's the real idiot? The one who tricked or the one who was tricked? He knows the girl is injured. They just need to wait for the 2 outside the restricted area to ambush them. Back in the forest, Yu asks why they're going deeper, as the monsters there were much stronger, but that was the MC's strategy. The men know she's injured, so they'll likely try to ambush them outside the restricted area. It's better to stay there until she recovers. Yu replies that she didn't imagine the MC could be so clever, even though he's so weak. Once again, the protagonist asks her not to hurt him with her words. Night passes, and as dawn breaks, the MC wakes up, and the girl is still asleep. He gets nervous, realizing she had fallen asleep in his arms. If she woke up in that position, he'd be immediately doomed. She wakes up, saying there's an evolved monster nearby. He asks where, and she says she can smell it in the air. He asks if she's some kind of dog, and she says they should leave as soon as possible. She walks away, saying they should prepare for battle, and the MC asks if she's feeling better. But she says she still needs 2 more days and tosses him her sword because he'll be the one fighting there, though the monsters are stronger than him. She tells him that with his current abilities, how does he expect to evolve without fighting strong monsters? He doesn't need to worry, she won't let him die. The protagonist says nothing, but his expression shows he's not too confident about her assurance. A rank 2 boar with tusks appears with a combat power of 800. The protagonist feels a bit nervous about facing a rank 2 already, but the girl gives him the strategy to focus on the belly, which is its weak spot. The boar roars and charges at the protagonist, who waits for the monster's charging attack. The second day arrives, and the system informs the MC that he has defeated a rank 2 black leopard. Then the system notifies him that he has reached level 9. He has already managed to defeat 30 evolved monsters. He starts thinking that the girl is terrifying. Even though she's young, she already knows everything about the monsters, and with her help, he's even defeated some rank 3 ones. He asks if she wants any of the crystal cores, but she responds that she doesn't need them, he can keep them. Now she's fully healed, and they can finally part ways. The protagonist yells that she can't leave him there. She's responsible for him, and those men are still after him, but she doesn't care. He says she's the one who attracted them, so it's not his fault, and he asks what she plans to do. She replies that she's going to find that lightning leopard. Linshio asks if she still wants to take down that monster, and she says this time she won't fail. She tells him that if he's still weaker than her the next time they meet, she'll eliminate him. The protagonist is stunned. Is she repaying his help with revenge? He asks where she's from, and she replies that she's from the holy area. It's been 2 days since the protagonist's encounter with the Zhang family gang, and he leaves the restricted area, wondering if they've given up on finding him. A sword cuts through the air, narrowly missing his back as he quickly ducks, countering the strike and asking who it is. One of the Zhang family lackeys says he finally found the MC. It's lucky they didn't leave today. The man asks where the girl is but then says it doesn't matter. He'll first teach the MC the consequences of deceiving them. Linshio realizes it's just one enemy, and he's only rank 1. He needs to defeat this guy before the others arrive. The man charges, shouting, and conjures a skill called White Snake Explosion. An energy snake forms, attacking the MC. He defends with his sword but is pushed back by the impact's force, causing an explosion where he stands. Linshio gets up, thinking that if he were armed with a spear, this battle would be much easier. His rage bar is at 90%. The man notices the MC doesn't know martial techniques, yet he dared to deceive them. He plans to pierce the boy's heart with his next skill, then charges with his sword to take down the protagonist. Once again, Linshio manages to block the strike using the side of his sword, and his rage bar finally reaches 100%. The accumulated rage is complete. He decides to use the skill immediately, focusing all his strength into his leg. Then he kicks, aiming between the man's legs, but the man sees the movement and uses his arm to defend himself. That was his mistake. When the protagonist's leg connected with the man's arm, all his bones cracked under the impact's strength. He couldn't hold back the blow, which struck him right in the jewels. It was a critical hit. He falls to his knees on the ground, and the protagonist takes the opportunity to decapitate the martial artist. The system informs him that he received 2,300 experience points and reached level 10, gaining 10 potential points. The MC unlocked the Fury ability, which grants multiple attributes for 10 minutes, after which he enters a state of extreme fatigue. He's excited about the new ability and allocates the points he received into agility. Someone yells the name of the man who had been defeated, and the remaining henchmen along with their leaders surround the protagonist. Liang asks the protagonist how he dares to kill his men, and the MC replies by asking if Liang thought the boy would just stand there waiting to be defeated by that fool. Now it was 5 against 1, and the MC had no chances. Zhang Liang orders everyone to attack the protagonist simultaneously, showing no mercy. The men all charge at once, and Linshio calls them despicable for acting that way, like a pack of lions attacking a rabbit. Linshio had no choice but to test his new ability. His eyes start to burn with intensity as he activates his fury, causing a massive explosion at his location. The protagonist feels the change in his attributes, feeling both relieved and empowered, emitting a red aura from his body. Liang is impressed, wondering how the MC suddenly became so strong. The protagonist takes the opportunity to flee the scene. Even though he's powered up, a 5 against 1 fight is still very risky. The gang starts searching for him. He had been very quick in escaping. Where had he gone? Zhang Liang orders his henchmen to spread out and look for the protagonist, but the MC is hidden, watching the situation unfold. Linshio realizes he only has about 5 minutes left, so he needs to finish this fight soon, or he'll be too weak when he enters the exhaustion state. He notices that one of the henchmen is wielding a spear and thinks this is the perfect opportunity. The MC jumps onto the man, and before he could understand what was happening, he was already knocked out on the ground. The MC stows his sword and takes the spear, now feeling ready to fight. Another henchman spots him and reveals his location to their boss. Zhang Liang orders his men to stop the protagonist while he heads to the location. The bald man uses a bronze martial technique, the wind blade, and charges at the MC. Spinning his spear and conjuring fire from it, Lin Xiu uses his skill. Birds against the phoenix. The man, whom I thought was bald but isn't, is startled by the MC's technique, which pierces through his body with just one move. Zhang Liang arrives at the battlefield and sees his henchman defeated with a single blow. Shocked. This was impossible, in the boss's view. How could a weak boy like that defeat a rank 1 martial artist like Li Hong? Liang leaps with his sword in hand, yelling at the MC while 2 others attack him from the sides. Zhang Liang uses his silver martial technique, Berserker Hunter Sword, and the other 2 henchmen also activate their martial techniques. The protagonist was getting very tired. The birds against the phoenix technique had taken a toll on his body, even with the fury buff active. The rage bar was at 60%, and the fight continued. The MC thinks he's lucky his rage bar fills so quickly. He needs to defeat their leader soon, so he'd have to give it his all. The men ask Zhang Liang if the boy is really an apprentice, and he replies that he must have some secret temporary enhancement technique. But these techniques always have a side effect, so they just need to prevent him from escaping again until his technique runs out. The system informs him that the rage bar has filled to 100% and asks if he wants to use the skill, and he confirms. He shouts, catching Zhang Liang's attention, and attacks, channeling his technique through the spear. Zhang Liang raises his sword to defend against the strike, confident he can withstand the impact, and taunting that the MC only has stupid tricks up his sleeve. The spear strike hits the center of the man's sword and splits it in half. The attack was too strong for Zhang Liang to withstand. He staggers back. The MC seizes the opening, saying the man will taste his spear at that moment. Lin Xiu advances, summoning the 100 birds against the phoenix, directly at Zhang Liang's chest. The man realizes that this power is a gold martial technique, far more powerful than his own, which was silver. The blow pierces Zhang Liang directly in the abdomen, and the spear begins to crack all over. It couldn't withstand the force of the blow and ends up breaking at the worst possible moment for the MC. He was already too exhausted to pull his sword, and his fury buff was wearing off. Seeing that Lin Xiu was tired, the man starts laughing, and shouts that it seems God wants the MC dead. He draws another sword and attacks the protagonist, but a red light flashes between them, blocking Zhang Liang's attack. He shouts, asking who's there. The academy nurse appears, saying that a bunch of rank 2 hunters dared to attack a Starlight student, and asks why he was doing this. Zhang Liang doesn't recognize her, so he asks who she is. She responds that they aren't worthy of knowing her name. She continues, saying she'll count to 3 and expects them gone by the time she finishes. She wouldn't mind ending them if necessary. Lin Xiu sees through the system that the doctor, named Xiao Ruoshui, is a rank 4 martial artist, which impresses him, and the men run off. He thought she was just an ordinary person when he first saw her, so he didn't even bother analyzing her with his special eye. She turns to the MC and says she underestimated him. She hadn't expected him to defeat 3 rank 1 artists, and nearly take down a rank 2. She loved it. The MC asks why she's there, and she replies that she's the school's medic, needing to take care of injured students, and he's no exception. Then she tells him to strip down so she can heal him. The protagonist shouts in fear, covering himself with his arms, saying they're just scratches. Why does she always tell him to strip? She moves closer, asking if he's really fine and doesn't need his big sis to heal him, and he insists he's okay. She accepts his answer and helps him up so they can get out of there. The bandits have probably regrouped and might return. He thanks her for the help, and together they return to where the rest of the students are. The teacher is counting the crystals each student collected. Su Jun gathered 3 rank 1 crystals, Li Yi 1 rank 2 crystal, and 4 rank 1 crystals. That's impressive. The teacher notes that they've all grown stronger with the training. He begins looking around for someone, then speaks to the red-haired chubby boy, asking if he's seen Lin Xiu, as he's the only one missing. The boy responds that they encountered a rank 3 python, and Lin Xiu ran into the restricted area during the panic. The teacher is shocked that he entered the restricted area alone. Zhang Yi says he was probably taken down by zombies or eaten by some beast, which offends Yang Tian, who tells him to repeat that and challenges him to a fight. The teacher tells them both to shut up, saying they'll wait for Lin Xiu's return. Su Jun says it's almost nighttime. Does the teacher really want everyone to stay? The kid's probably already been defeated by some monster. The MC then yells to everyone, asking who's cursing him. Everyone turns, surprised by Lin Xiu's return. He comes back, scratching his ear, saying Su Jun seems like he wants another beating. Should he give him one to shut him up? Yang Tian is thrilled at the MC's return, while Su-jun is frustrated that the MC came back alive. Lin Xiu walks in confidently, and the teacher asks if he's okay. The MC confirms he is, and Yang Tian approaches him. One of the students who was with Lin Xiu at the start of the exploration asks if he just hid or actually took down some beasts in the past few days. The MC turns to them, saying it looks like they managed to kill quite a few mutant beasts. The boy says that Zhang Yi defeated 8 rank 1 beasts. The classmates are impressed by the boy's accomplishment, and he feels satisfied receiving several compliments from them, as expected of the class representative. The protagonist then asks if 8 rank 1 beasts were considered a lot, which confuses the boy. Then he turns his backpack upside down, and several crystals fall to the ground. There were 16 rank 1 cores, 2 rank 2 cores, and 3 rank 3 cores. The teacher's assistant is shocked to see that the MC brought back 3 rank 3 cores. The classmates are stunned by this. Lin Xiu had defeated 3 rank 3 beasts? That was impossible. Zhang Yi is speechless, but soon starts shouting, accusing Lin Xiu of cheating. This had to be a lie. The teacher then stands up, asking if he too was deceiving everyone. A rank 3 core costs 450,000. Who in that class could afford to buy 3 of them to deceive the teacher? Zhang Yi is stunned, and the teacher changes the subject. The training had gone better than expected. They couldn't sell the items online, but they could sell them to the hotel manager. Lin Xiu and Yang Tiang are thrilled with this information. Back at the hotel, the manager says he'll pay 1,000 union coins for a rank 1 core, and the students are there selling theirs. Lin Xiu complains about being the last to sell his cores, but Yang Tiang tells him to calm down because he'd annoy a lot of people if he went first. He shows his loot to the hotel manager, who is delighted to see he managed to obtain 3 rank 3 cores. The MC asks how much they're worth, and the innkeeper says they're 500,000 each. Yang Tiang thinks that's amazing, and a bystander says the MC is now very rich because he'll receive nearly 2 million for everything he brought. The innkeeper tells Lin Xiu to send him his union card because he'll pay him immediately, but someone pushes the protagonist aside, telling him to stop wasting time. The protagonist looks at the one who pushed him, and it's a nearly graduated senior named Sun Chun, asking if these were students from class 29, while another student mocks them. Yang Tiang yells at the seniors, but they couldn't care less about the chubby boy. The MC thinks he'd heard of the students from the higher classes before. They were once beginners but are now on a completely different level. Sun Chun seemed to be 18th in the school's combat ranking. The senior hands his cores to the innkeeper, 10 rank 1 cores and a rank 2 core, and asks to exchange them for union coins. Sun Chun says that managing to defeat a rank 2 beast is a true sign of power. Little does he know what the MC has already defeated. Still trying to humiliate the MC's class, Sun Chun goes on to say that Lin Xiu is the worst trash of all, as expected from the worst class. The protagonist approaches the senior, saying he's the one being talked about and asks if he'd like to see him. He says Chun would be better off apologizing now, or he'd taste what it's like to be beaten up by someone he considers trash. Chun curses the protagonist, saying he'll have to teach Lin Xiu a lesson or his name isn't Sun Chun. The protagonist readies his punch, and the senior gets excited, asking if he's really going to fight barehanded. Here, he'll get a taste of the next life. Their fists collide, and they step back a bit. Chun realizes the protagonist is much stronger than he expected. His arm hurts, but that won't stop him. He shouts at the protagonist that he's going to break him and prepares a side kick, which the boy notices. Lin Xiu leaps and lands a knee right on Chen's nose. It's a critical hit. Even I, just reading, can feel the pain from that blow. The MC's classmates start cheering for him, excited by the fight, and Chen admits he's not as useless as he seemed, but the MC had managed to make him extremely angry. Summoning a blue aura, Sun Chen calls upon his star platinum and starts landing a flurry of aura punches on the MC. Lin Xiu's rage bar fills up as he dodges the senior's blows. Zhang Yi is terrified at the MC's growth. Facing a first-class opponent isn't something just anyone can do. Confident, Sun Chen asks if he's just going to keep dodging his blows, then says he'll show him what a real punch is. The protagonist blocks the punch with his arms, but the impact is enormous. The MC's friends tell him to be careful and look frightened, while the other veteran says they're overestimating themselves. Sun Chen is confused. The MC had completely blocked his punch with his hands. The system notifies him that his rage energy is fully charged, asking if he wants to use a full attack. The MC decides not to use it. He could defeat the boy without needing the power of rage, and he wanted to use the veteran as a warning to everyone else not to dare provoke him. With a move I couldn't quite understand, the MC twists Sun Chen's arm completely, breaking it. Screaming in pain with his arm destroyed, Sun Chen backs away from the MC. The veterans are extremely shocked by what they just saw, and start cursing the protagonist, asking how he dares hurt someone from Class 1. They say everyone from Class 29 is worthless. Yang Tian argues that they attacked first, and calls the veterans to fight. The other veteran with Chen says it was just an argument, and what they did was too cruel. The MC asks if it was cruel and says that Sun Chen used a bronze technique against him, and if he hadn't defended himself, he'd have been seriously injured. The boy says he went too far, and the innkeeper finally steps in to break up the fight. He calls out Lin Xiu's name, and casually informs him that he transferred the money for the 3 rank 3 cores he brought in, asking the MC to confirm the receipt. The boy is shocked to learn he got 3 rank 3 cores. That boy could defeat rank 3 beasts. How had he become so strong when he was just an ordinary person before? Lin Xiu returns to the discussion, asking if they want to avenge their friend, secretly hoping they'd attack so he could use the stored full attack. The boy stays silent for a moment, and someone yells, asking if they want to fight, drawing everyone's attention. The 2 academy teachers were approaching them. One of the veterans explains that the MC broke Sun Chen's arm, and Yang Tian reveals that they attacked first. The MC's teacher asks Yang Tian to explain everything that happened in detail, and he complies. After understanding the situation, the teacher asks the MC to apologize to the veteran, though he clearly enjoyed the whole thing and was impressed by the boy. Lin Xiu offers a mockingly friendly apology to Sun Chen, saying he'll pay for his medicine. Now that he's rich, it won't be a problem. The boys look confused and embarrassed. The rest of the MC's class sees that Lin Xiu humiliated the veterans and starts laughing at them, and even the teacher chuckles discreetly. The other teacher, who seems to be wearing some kind of lingerie, says both sides were wrong and they should end it here and take Sun Chen to get healed. Sun Chen admits he was careless this time but asks the protagonist if he'll have the courage to fight in next week's battle. The MC asks why he would be afraid to fight, and the veteran says they'll meet in the arena. The protagonist's classmates are excited by his show of strength and start praising and thanking him, knowing the veterans won't humiliate them anymore. The teacher tells everyone to put this behind them and go test their combat levels on the hotel's testing equipment. He wants to see if they've grown stronger after the exploration, so they arrive at a room with a door resembling the ones from Monsters Incorporated. The teacher asks who will go first. This new hotel equipment is very accurate. Zhang Yi's friend volunteers to go first. His name is Yichio, and he's a beginner-rank martial artist with a combat score of 450. Another student named Ming Mu tests his combat power and receives 389 points. Yang Tian scored 469. Zhang Yi impresses everyone by reaching 675, and even the teacher is shocked by his combat power, recognizing him as having martial arts potential. Fighters with up to 600 points are beginner rank, and those with potential rank go up to 800. So what would someone above that be? The teacher tells Zhang Yi that, starting tomorrow, he can start using cultivation techniques, which excites the boy. He thanks the teacher, who tells him to start as soon as possible. Official martial artists were strong because of this technique. The universe has an energy called Yuan that energizes martial artists and strengthens them. The teacher interrupts Lin Xiu's thoughts, calling his name. It was his turn to test his combat power. The protagonist steps up to the device, and his classmates start laughing again, saying he shouldn't even try to measure his power, as he'd always be the class trash. Yang Tian then says that if they think they're so tough, they should try breaking Sun Chen's arm, but the boy responds that it was pure luck. Lin Xiu steps onto the device, and it starts calculating power. Now he would show that the school's worst student wasn't who they thought anymore. Night falls, and the teacher is talking with the MC and Zhang Yi, wanting to discuss what they plan to do with their futures. The 2 of them were potential-level martial artists, so they needed to choose a weapon that suited them. Zhang Yi glares at the MC with hatred. He was nervous and irritated. During the power measurement, the device showed that he had 676 combat power, 1 point higher than Zhang Yi. Yang Tian starts laughing and celebrating that the MC is stronger than Zhang Yi, and both boys are completely shocked by this. The teacher is thrilled to know that there are 2 potential rank martial artists in his class. Zhang Yi can't believe the MC had gotten so strong overnight, even stronger than him. The teacher says that rank 3 monsters have tough skin, but they've developed weapons with alien metals that can damage these beasts. So, they should choose a type of weapon that would be preferable for them and combine it with their martial techniques to unleash their full combat power. Lin Xiu raises his hand and says he's already thought about this and chosen his weapon. He wants to use a spear. The teacher says the spear is the king of weapons. If he could master it, he'd become very powerful. Of course, the top-ranked fighters were sword users, and the protagonist slaps the table, excited, pointing out that the top 10 ranked fighters lack a spear user. The teacher agrees and then notices something, but we don't quite understand what it is. The MC runs out of the room, bidding farewell to the teacher. The teacher senses that he has great ambition. Perhaps he'll become strong and famous in the near future. The MC receives a spear technique cultivation card. Now all he needed was a good spear. He wasn't an official martial artist yet, so he couldn't buy anything from the union's website. All he could do was try his luck at the martial arts hall. A big, bearded man greets the protagonist enthusiastically, asking what kind of weapon he'd like to acquire. He replies that he wants a spear, and the vendor says few students look for that type of weapon. But he had just crafted some spears, so he was in luck, and tells him to take a look. The blacksmith picks up one of the spears, saying it weighs 20 kilograms and was crafted from extraterrestrial meteorite, sharp and worth the price of 50,000. The protagonist takes the spear in his hand and says it's too light. The blacksmith brings another one, weighing 35 kilograms, saying it has a fire attribute due to being made with lava stone as well as meteorite, but it's still too light for the MC. The man shows a 45 kilograms one crafted with star metal and adorned with details, but Lin Xiu says it's still too light. He wanted something heavier. The blacksmith, getting irritated, asks if he really wanted to buy a spear or was just playing a prank on him. Since he wanted such a heavy spear, he had one the MC wouldn't even be able to lift. He'd had this spear in stock for ages because it was too heavy to carry. But how convenient, right? Ever since it was made, it's just collected dust, stored away for so long. It was crafted from the mother of the stellar universe and weighed 65 kilograms. Lin Xiu is amazed by the weapon's beauty, and the blacksmith says it's very special. Its name is Steel Soul. The protagonist takes it in his hands and says it's perfect. He holds it up to test it, and decides to take it. The man is impressed with how easily the MC lifts the spear and says the price is 1.2 million, offering a 20% discount. The protagonist is shocked and asks if he can pay in installments, but the blacksmith says it's cash up front, or he can leave. Lin Xiu pays the full amount for the spear, almost in tears. This must be a scam. Cultivation is too expensive. Meanwhile, the blacksmith is grinning over the sale. Back at the academy, he can now use the cultivation technique, having become a potential rank martial artist. Currently, there's all kinds of energy across Earth that martial artists call you on, but ordinary people can't sense or absorb it. The boy wonders what might change in his body after this first cultivation, but apparently, he doesn't feel anything, so he opens the system to check. The window shows that his strength and physique have each increased by 2 points, and he's stunned. Could it be because of the cultivation technique? Another notification window pops up, startling him, informing him that he has earned new roulette spin chances, and it asks if he wants to spin now. He'd forgotten about this. Besides the monthly rewards, each month usually gives spin chances, and the month just turned, so he starts spinning. He asks the system not to give him a weapon this time. He just spent 1.2 million on one, and it would be terrible to get another. The system informs him that he won a speed growth package. A gift box appears in front of the protagonist, and when he opens it, he finds several strange pieces of equipment inside, leaving him very confused. The system asks the MC if he wants to use the speed boost package, but Lin Xiu is still confused about what he just received. The system kindly requests that the protagonist equips the items in the speed boost package. He puts on the vest, still bewildered by everything happening. After putting it on, he wonders what he's supposed to do, and the system informs him that he has just equipped and activated the package. Current progress is 0 out of 10,000. Suddenly, Lin Xiu is thrown to the ground. The equipment is absurdly heavy. He collapses under its weight. The total weight of all the equipment was 130 kilograms, making it impossible for the MC to get up. The protagonist, now angry, doesn't want to mess around with the system anymore. This trash system was trying to make him wear 130 kilograms of equipment to exhaust him to death. He asks the system to cancel the equipment. The system shocks Lin Xiu and informs him that he's unable to remove the equipment until he completes the speed training. The protagonist is furious with the system, but it informs him that if he doesn't adapt to the equipment soon, he'll have to crawl to class. Lin Xiu is also informed that he'll gain 25 potential points if he completes the training, which makes him more motivated to try. He starts crawling on the ground, but the weight of the equipment is still too much, and he bangs his head in the process. The next day arrives, and the MC is worn out. He crawled all night to try walking with the equipment, and finally reached 1,000 points. Someone pats him on the back, and the MC collapses to the ground like a sack of potatoes. He looks back, shouting at whoever hit his back. He's furious, but it's a red-haired girl asking if he's okay. She's very cute. Could she be another love interest for the MC? She asks if he's sick. The MC recognizes her. Her name was Shuang Er, and says it's nothing. He was just lost in thought and didn't notice her presence until she hit him. He greets her, saying it's been 2 years since they last met, and asks what brought her to Starlight Academy. She replies that the entrance exams are approaching, and her teacher had taken students to visit universities they might be interested in. The protagonist asks if she's thinking of enrolling there, and if it's because he's there. She tells him to stop talking nonsense and dreaming. She's not enrolling because of him. The MC accepts, confident of what will happen next, and stands in front of Xuan, saying that if Tang Ping wants a beating so badly, he'd be happy to grant his wish. The MC thinks that even though he's weighed down by over 200 kilograms of equipment, dealing with a kid like that shouldn't be a problem. Lin Xiu calls the boy to fight, and he charges forward, confident he has a chance against the MC. Tang Ping jumps and prepares a kick, but the protagonist blocks it using his own leg. The boy jumps back a few times, and says the MC didn't do too badly, then challenges him to defend against the next move. Tang Ping activates his bronze martial technique, floating dust palm, and green flames begin to emanate from his hands. He charges at the protagonist and manages to land a hit on his chest with the technique. The boy was indeed fast. If the MC weren't weighed down by over 130 kilograms of equipment, he could have easily dodged, but that wasn't the case, so he took the hit. Tang Ping unleashes a series of punches similar to Niji's 64 palms technique against the MC, and Lin Xiu takes the full brunt of the attack. The boy's classmates are excited. He was a martial genius, almost at the potential rank, and they thought the MC would lose, but the girl disagrees. Tang Ping realizes he can even push the protagonist back with his strength, but he couldn't knock him down. He had to defeat him there in front of Xuan. Did he want to defeat Lin Xiu because he liked the girl, or to prove himself strong? The Zenitsu wannabe prepares a powerful strike, ready to defeat the protagonist for good, but the MC completely nullifies it by grabbing his arm before he reaches him. Lin Xiu asks if he knew that when you want to send someone to the other world, you have to be ready to be sent there as well. The boy panics and begs the senior to wait, but Lin Xiu says he must teach him a lesson since he was his senior, and breaks Tang Ping's arm with his sheer strength. It's the second one in this story. Someone even commented in the story if he was a nanomachine fan, given his obsession with breaking arms. The boy drops to his knees on the ground with his injured arm. Lin Xiu kicks him in the face, and ketchup flies everywhere, along with him. The boy is thrown several meters away, and his classmates scream his name in desperation. One of them asks if Tang Ping is okay, but all he says is that he will destroy the protagonist. He gets excited and calls the boy to come at him again, and someone behind approaches, running. Lin Xiu looks back, startled, and takes a powerful punch that throws him far. Tang Ping had hit him, but how? The MC gets up, injured, and Tang Ping yells to the other boy, his brother, that Lin Xiu had hurt him and asks for help. His name was Tang Tian, and he was a third-year student at the academy, ranking in the top 100 strongest and a co-leader of the Starlight Fist Association. The MC senior says that since Lin Xiu broke his brother's wrist, he would cripple him entirely. Lin Xiu was bearing over 100 kilograms of weight on his body. He couldn't dodge Tang Tian's strike. He takes a punch and falls to the ground, but someone yells at him to stop. Xuan steps between Tang Tian and the MC, saying she won't let him hurt her brother, Lin Xiu. Tang Tian simply doesn't care. He asks who she thinks she is to say that, then says he'll destroy her right there. He has his fist aimed at the girl, and she closes her eyes, ready to take the full impact. The protagonist shouts for her to be careful and pushes her aside, then takes the full hit from Tang Ping's brother. He falls back, already fainting, and the senior still scorns him, saying he was trying to look cool in front of the girl, even though he was about to be annihilated. He approaches Lin Xiu and says he'll cripple him for good. He steps on the MC's arm, and he screams in pain and despair, and the girl screams too. Tang Tian says now it's the turn of the other arm. He'll turn the protagonist into worthless trash. And someone else shouts at him to stop. Someone was running toward Tang Tian, telling him to stop immediately. Tang Tian ignores it and lowers his leg to break the MC's other arm. But the one running was a teacher, who, cursing the student, casts a spell to stop him, calling him a bastard for daring to cripple someone right in front of him. The spell prevents the student from breaking the MC's other arm. The teacher approaches and asks what he intended to do. A third-year boy attacking a second-year junior? That was unacceptable. Tang Tian explains that the MC had broken his younger brother's arm and asks if it was fair for a second-year student to hurt another junior. But Xuan yells, explaining that Tang Ping had requested to train with the MC, yet had used a lethal technique against Lin Xiu during the training. The teacher says it doesn't matter who's right or wrong, the school would judge and decide the case. Tang Tian says the MC may have escaped this time, but he can't hide forever. He'd better be careful outside of school. The protagonist, still injured, says he doesn't need to worry and challenges him to a fight in 3 days. Professor Luo tells the MC to stop being foolish. Tang Tian was much stronger than him and could end up killing him. Xuan begs Lin Xiu not to do this, but the protagonist had already made up his mind. He says she doesn't need to worry. Lin Xiu asks if he dares to fight him, and Tang Tian says that if his opponent is the MC, he has no reason to be afraid. He'll cripple the boy in front of everyone, in the end. Rumors spread around the school. The trash boy from class 29 challenged one of the top 100 in the power ranking. Everyone thought he'd get beaten up and wanted to watch. In the infirmary, the nurse asks him to take off his clothes for a full-body checkup, but the MC says he only broke his arm, so there's no need to get undressed. She applies something to the MC and says it's very good, and he asks what kind of medicine it is. It's a medicine from the Shao family, but she changes the subject, saying he can't go around challenging everyone in school, especially someone from the Tang family. Lin Xiu protests, saying they provoked him first. Was she asking him to just let them beat him up? She says she knows he's strong, then hands him a green card. It's a bronze martial technique, the Shattering Fist. That thing was really expensive. Was she really giving it to him? She explains that this technique is free and is one of the most powerful hand-to-hand combat techniques. But since it's so dangerous, nobody uses it. But with the Shao family's medicine, even if he breaks bones or tears muscles, it wouldn't be a problem, so he could train with this technique. The protagonist feels extremely grateful and moved by the nurse's help. She moves closer, holds his chin, and says essentially that it's fine, he's one of hers, and she won't let him die easily. Night falls, and the MC is training with the technique, using speed-enhancing equipment, and with the medicine, he could train the technique in just 3 days. The system congratulates the MC for reaching level 11. He didn't expect to level up from this training, but the 11 potential points came in handy. The speed system's progress wasn't enough. He'd already adapted to the weight but could only use 80% of the abilities in combat, though he decides to leave it as is. The next day is the fight against Tang Tian. Both competitors are already in the arena, waiting for the fight to begin. The crowd cheers, chanting Tang Tian's name, everyone rooting for his victory. The teachers discuss the fight. Tang Tian's teacher tells him to go easy on the MC, but Professor Lu says the victory isn't decided yet. The battle is about to start. Tang Tian asks if the MC will kneel before him and beg for mercy, or if he'd rather die by his hands right there. The MC replies that when he surrenders in the end, he won't show mercy either. Tang Tian falls for the taunt, and uses a throat-piercing sword technique. The fight's commentator is shocked because Tang Tian started the combat with a deadly technique. He wasn't holding back, and the MC's throat would be pierced. Lin Xiu advances and manages to parry the blow with his spear, leaving the commentator stunned, though he's seen to be grazed by it. The boy asks the senior if that was sword energy, and Tang Tian replies that he can't fully block his sword. He advances again, telling the MC to go to hell once and for all, but Lin Xiu begins to defend against all of his opponent's sword attacks. Despite making a significant defense, he still takes damage. His clothes begin to tear, and the blood splatters from his skin. The chubby guy is nervous because Tang Tian is really strong, but another friend notices that, even though he's taking many attacks, they aren't effective. Tang Tian realizes this too. He couldn't inflict heavy damage on him. He charges his Flame Fury attack technique and tells the MC to block it. The protagonist realizes the technique is probably very powerful. He wouldn't be able to block it, and the rage energy wasn't complete yet. He could only use the move he was hiding to use after unleashing the rage energy, but it was his only trump card at the moment. He uses his 100 birds against the Phoenix technique. Professor Luo is impressed by the technique, which is very powerful and infused with a lot of Yuan Qi power. How did he get so strong in such a short time? The flames of the two boys collide in the arena, causing a huge explosion, which throws the MC to the other side of the arena, creating a massive hole in the ground. Tang Tian is still standing. He's injured and acknowledges the MC's strength, but he hasn't been defeated or knocked down. Professor Luo and the MC's friends begin frantically shouting his name, but he stands up and yells that he's fine, impressing everyone there. The system informs that the progress of the speed growth package is complete. He has gained 25 potential points, and his rage bar is full. Lin Xiu adds 21 points to strength and 4 to physique, throws his cape aside, and reveals the equipment from the speed package. The crowd is confused, thinking it was some kind of protective armor, but the professor realizes they were just weights he was wearing during the fight. Tang Tian says it doesn't matter if he was using some weights in the fight, but when the weights finally hit the ground, the impact is enormous. Finally, the real show was about to begin. Everyone there was shocked at the weights he had been using. Lin Xiu smiles and says that was just a warm-up. Now the real fight would begin. Tang Tian feels irritated for being looked down upon and treated like a fool until now in the fight. He shouts that he will make the protagonist pay for his arrogant actions and advances for an attack while the MC waits patiently for him to approach. The boy swings a sideways slash with his flaming sword, but the MC was no longer there. Tang Tian is confused, but he doesn't have much time to think, as Lin Xiu is already beside him, spear pointed at him. Tang Tian defends the MC's strikes with his sword. Lin Xiu's strength and speed had increased significantly, and the boy noticed it, as his sword began to crack. Jumping over the boy, Lin Xiu asks if he enjoyed beating him before and says it's his turn now, but Tang says he's not afraid. Luo notices that Lin Xiu had become stronger after removing the weights. This was the MC's true power, and Tang Tian's teacher is stunned by it all. Spinning his spear at full speed, Lin Xiu prepares another strike against Tang Tian. He once again uses his technique, the 100 birds against the phoenix, but the opponent had not given up yet. He shouts that there's no way mere trash could have so much strength in martial arts, and he charges at the protagonist. The fiery phoenix forms, and the MC manages to position the spear in front of Tang Tian. He uses his sword to defend, but it wasn't enough. The spear strike breaks the sword and hits the boy, sending him flying across the arena, leaving the sword broken into 2 pieces behind. Everyone there was astonished. Tang Tian had been defeated, and no one could believe that the weakling from Class 29 had achieved this impressive feat. Tang Tian puts his hand on the ground and says the MC's name. He manages to stand up and, though exhausted, says he hasn't been completely defeated yet. He begins drinking a strange liquid. His eyes widen. His muscles start growing suddenly. He was enormous and much stronger, with a blue and green aura emanating from his body. Lin Xiu wonders if he's trying to become the Hulk and shouts that he dared to use illicit drugs in the fight. Tang Tian says he wants to annihilate the MC, pointing at him. His hands begin to spark with lightning as he prepares the strike and charges to destroy the MC, using the technique he had trained, the shattering fist. The punch hits the arena floor, creating a huge hole and sending rocks and debris flying everywhere. Lin Xiu manages to dodge the strike, and he charges with his spear to end the fight. But the other boy grabs the spear with his hands, nullifying Lin Xiu's strike. Tang Tian says this would be the day of the MC's burial. He pulls the spear from the boy's hands and kicks him in the stomach, launching him far away, then throws the spear with all his might at the protagonist. The spear was nearly reaching and piercing the MC when he also prepares his strike while still being thrown backward. He manages to hit the shattering fist on the tip of the spear, sending it flying backward, even out of the arena. Luo realizes that Tang Tian had used Alphas just to defeat Lin Xiu. One of the MC's friends asks what kind of drug that was, and he begins to explain. Over the years, humans had used this drug to fight monsters, but it had a terrible side effect that could cripple them permanently. Tang Tian must have been crazy to want to end up like that just to have the pleasure of defeating the MC. Luo says the fight should be stopped since the boy had used an illicit substance. The narrator is in shock but says nothing yet. Another teacher says there were no rules against using Alphas during a battle. The narrator responds that Professor Lu is correct, and the principal agrees. The battle will continue. This makes Luo very worried, but when he looks to the side, the head of the Tang family is in the stands watching. He's a shareholder of the school, so they won't stop the fight, but this could cost the MC his life. Lin Xiu is getting beaten badly by Tang Tian. The boy says that, unarmed, the MC is no match for him. His shattering fist technique is the strongest, and Lin Xiu is lying on the ground, injured. Wiping his mouth, the boy stands up and asks what made him think he could only use a spear. He finally decides to use his rage ability. For 10 minutes, his attributes would be boosted, so he had more than enough time to defeat his opponent. The MC charges at the enemy at full speed, but Tang Tian says Lin Xiu is overestimating himself. Their fists meet, and they start exchanging punch after punch at insane speed. The students are impressed by Lin Xiu's ability to stand toe-to-toe with someone in the school's top 100, even with Tang's shattering fist. The senior is becoming desperate, unable to defeat the MC immediately, even under the effect of performance enhancers. The MC realizes that, after taking off the weights, his potential and strength have increased significantly. He's much more proficient in combat now. Tang shouts that his fist technique is much stronger, and they both prepare their strikes simultaneously, but the MC manages to dodge the boy's strike. He uses the shattering fist technique on Tang Tian's arm, but it seems to have no effect. Tang Tian says his skin is much tougher and wouldn't be hurt, even by a spear, but Lin Xiu says it doesn't matter. He's attacking his internal parts. Tang's arm literally explodes, and I was left jaw-dropped at that scene. The students realize it was the explosion technique of the shattering fist. He'd learned the technique without suffering its side effects, and everyone is scared by its power. On his knees, with his arm bleeding, Tang asks how he managed to master that technique in just 3 days. But the MC's answer is that it's simply reality. He has won. Tang shouts that it's impossible, he can't lose, and he charges at the MC with his other, still functional arm, saying he'll kill Lin Xiu. The boy simply replies that if he's looking for death, he'll grant his wish. Lin Xiu defends the blow, and uses his martial technique. A hand appears from nowhere, and someone yells, asking how the MC dares. A small explosion occurs, and Lin Xiu is suddenly thrown backward. Luo and the other two friends shout for the MC and rush to his aid. The teacher climbs into the arena while the other two hold the protagonist up as he coughs and ask if he's alright. The head of the Tang family stands in front of Tang and asks the protagonist how he dares to try to eliminate someone from the family right in front of him. The protagonist taunts him, saying the Tang family needs outside help even in a martial fight. The teacher tries to negotiate, but the head of the family simply replies that he'll remember the MC. The narrator shouts that Lin Xiu has won the martial battle, and now he's part of the school's top 100 ranking. Everyone starts cheering his name for his victory. Someone knocks on the MC's door, saying it's already 11 o'clock and asking how long he'll keep sleeping. Lin Xiu answers the door and sees it's Professor Luo. He's still tired from yesterday's fight but asks what the professor wants. Luo says he has good news and bad news for him and asks which one he wants to hear first. Lin Xiu says he wants to hear the bad news first. Luo says the school has decided to punish the MC. The boy protests, outraged, because he's the only one being punished. But the professor interrupts, explaining that the Tang family is one of the school's shareholders, and Tang Tian was nearly defeated by him. For someone from the high ranks like them, it was a tremendous humiliation. Tang used enhancers during the battle, so they couldn't say anything about that, but then they managed to punish the MC for other things he had done. The protagonist is indignant about this and clenches his fists, then asks what his punishment will be. The professor replies that he should participate in the annual extermination missions at the Bright Fortress in Starshine City. The place was a fortress in the northern part of Starshine City, and had suffered a nuclear attack that was causing mutations among the soldiers stationed there. This doesn't seem like a bad idea to the protagonist. It was basically free experience he could gain from the evolved monsters in the area. Lin Xiu takes on a more confident stance, and says he will obey this order. Luo gets worked up, saying this is no joke. The mortality rate at the Bright Fortress is 70%, and he will try to reduce this punishment. The boy thanks the professor for his concern but says he's already decided and then wants to know the good news. He had been so nervous about the punishment situation that he had forgotten he had good news to share too. He pulls a silver card from his clothing and hands it to the MC. It was a spear technique of Parata level, the Storm of the Pear Blossom. Lin Xiu is extremely excited and thanks him for the Parata martial technique he received as a reward for reaching the top 100 in the school. Luo explains that this technique was left by Master Bai Li and could make 100 attacks in just 1 second, but few had managed to master it completely. Lin Xiu is already drooling just imagining using this extremely powerful technique with his spear. It was impressive to him, and he says he will master it. The professor places his hand on the MC's shoulder, and says that he has progressed very quickly, that his potential is very high, so he must return alive from this mission. The boy replies that he need not worry, he would return alive and whole. Lin Xiu arrives in the city, walking in new clothes. His last battle had destroyed his old ones, and wonders if he'll receive military attire. A sword is nearly separating his head from the rest of his body, but he notices and quickly dodges by ducking. He jumps back and asks who is there. 5 men approach, and one says he's good. He reacted quickly to his attack. It's impressive that he's not yet an official martial artist. All the guys there were rank 1 martial artists, and the MC wonders if this is free XP. He asks if they dare touch him, as this is the city area. But the men don't care. If they do it quickly and cleanly, no one will know they did anything to him. He uses his Bronze Pursuer Wind technique and charges forward. The protagonist dodges and remarks that they're really confident they can take him out. The man is confused. But before he can react, the protagonist has already activated his Shattering Fist technique on the bald man's arm. The bald man's arm explodes, and the protagonist says that if he wants to take someone out, he should be prepared to be taken out as well, then prepares another strike. The man screams for him to wait. They could resolve this by talking, but when he thought he could eliminate the MC, there was no talk, was there? With just 1 punch, we see the silhouette of the man's head disintegrating as he flies back from the force of the blow. It was a critical hit. The man falls to the ground, and now he's no longer bald, while the others are stunned by what just happened. The system informs that Lin Xiu gained 2,500 XP, and they can't believe a rank 1 martial artist insta-killed another. They decide to attack together to eliminate the MC. But Lin Xiu has no trouble dealing with all of them at once. 2 more bandits are already down. The remaining 2 are scared of the MC, and start running away, desperate. The MC notes that they fled quickly. Who could have hired them to deal with him? It was probably the Tangs. Back at the Tang mansion, someone yells that the 2 men who fled were trash. 5 rank 1 martial artists ambush a potential rank, and still, 3 of them are taken out. They were all useless trash. It was a crazy, ugly woman yelling at them. The green-haired one replies that he didn't expect the boy to be so strong. He took one of them down with just 1 strike. Another person yells, calling them bastards and asking how they dared try to eliminate someone within the city. Were they trying to ruin the family? The boss is at the door and orders them out. The woman begins stammering in fear, and the two goons run out of the room. The boss then asks the woman if she thought no one would find out if she did things that way. If he hadn't quickly sent someone to clean up the bodies, the union would investigate and easily find out they were responsible for that mess. The woman shouts that she can't just stand by while her two sons are attacked. She has to take action and wants to torture whoever did it. Because of that bastard, Tang was forced to train in a very dangerous place, the path of death, and almost no one came back alive from there. The head of the family responds that it was Tang's own fault. He chose to use that forbidden drug, and now only the path of death can strengthen him. He didn't care about the matter anymore. He had already pressured the school to punish Lin Xiu, so it was now their problem, and he wouldn't interfere further. That place already had a 70% mortality rate, and he wouldn't mind if it increased. At the Bright Fortress, a roll call is happening. The protagonist's name is called, and he confirms his presence. Qin Chang is leading the group and asks the MC if he's the one called Lin Xiu. The protagonist confirms and notices that Chang is another martial artist beyond his analytical eyes level. After finishing the roll call, Chang tells everyone to prepare because he wants them all to return alive from this mission, then walks away. A big guy with a mohawk asks the MC if he's lost, and everyone starts laughing, but the protagonist remains silent. Chang orders everyone to quiet down. They needed to be more serious as Starshine City was sending 4 teams of 10 participants for this hunt. The mohawk guy points out that there are only 39 martial artists. The MC didn't really seem like an official martial artist. Chang points forward and orders all those who laugh to do 100 push-ups, and everyone obeys. He approaches the MC and says that even though he's just a student, he'll be treated equally, so he should know he could die at any moment. The protagonist says he understands, and Chang says that's good. Leaving the area, Chang shouts that everyone there needs to gather their things because they're leaving in 5 minutes, and everyone confirms the order. On the transport ship, the combatants are training. A long-haired man approaches the MC and asks if he's a Starshine Academy student. He's a graduate, and his name is Li. The protagonist doesn't respond but looks at him. Li sits next to Lin Xiu and asks why he was sent along on this Bright Fortress mission. That place is very dangerous. Lin Xiu replies that the school forced him. Li then asks if he offended a noble at the school, saying that was a problem, while a can flies past them and hits the wall. Someone asks the long-haired guy why he isn't training instead of chatting with the MC. He's just a rookie. It's the guy with the mohawk. His name is Jin Hai. Li stands up and says the MC is his junior, and the man had better not cross the line. Jin Hai says he just arrived there and is already too arrogant. He doesn't need him to care, so he'd better leave. Jin Hai kneels in front of the MC's box and asks what's inside. If it's some treasure, he'll take it. Lin Xiu places his hand on the box and stops the man from opening it. He asks if his parents didn't teach him not to mess with other people's things. Jin Hai is tense with anger and says that for a kid, he's quite arrogant. The other adults there tell Jin to take his stuff and teach Lin Xiu a lesson. The boy asks if he's never heard that curiosity killed the cat. Jin Hai tells him to shut up and tries to grab the box. But when he tries to lift it, it's too heavy. The protagonist looks at him with disdain. He kicks the box, and his spear flies out from inside it. He catches the spear midair and points it at Jin Hai. The man is furious at this action, and the MC says he forgot to mention that his silver soul needs to see blood when he uses it. He lightly touches the tip of the spear to Jin Hai's neck, but then pulls it back and says he's not much, even as a rank 1 martial artist. Jin Hai asks what he just said, and the MC says he's complete trash, provoking Jin Hai and making him furious. The man charges at the protagonist, ready to punch him in the face, but the MC says Hai is too slow and counterattacks, making him fall to the ground immediately. Another martial artist runs to attack the protagonist, but someone yells for him to stop at that instant. The captain was there and asks Jin Hai if he was harassing a newcomer again. One of the martial artists approaches and says that the MC had hit Jin Hai first, but he replies that a martial artist getting beaten by a high schooler was already embarrassing enough. If they had so much strength to waste like that, why didn't they focus on staying alive? They were almost at the Bright Fortress. At the fortress, the captain says he will head to the fortress core with 3 other instructors to defeat the most threatening evolved beast. The rest would form groups of 10, each with a leader, to enter through the south side of the fortress. Everyone nods in agreement. Lin Xiu asks Li if he'd been there before, and he replies that he had actually joined the group that same year. Jin Hai says he hopes the MC doesn't get taken out by the monsters and walks away, and the protagonist says not to worry because he'll survive. Instead, could someone as weak as him, who couldn't even beat a high schooler, see the next day? A woman yells at Jin Hai to shut up. Now was the time to set aside their grudges. She was the team leader, and her name was Su Wen. She didn't want their personal issues to put their teammates in danger. Jin Hai acknowledges the order. She looks at Lin Xiu and calls everyone to move. There were already many monsters in the area. Several small towns surrounded the fortress, and they had to clear this area of beasts and zombies. Jin Hai remarks that these were just rank 1 monsters, and the mission wasn't as tough as he'd expected. Suwon says that was just the outer area. High-rank zombies and evolved beasts would be in the depths of the towns. Inside the city, the MC's team is walking in a completely deserted area when they see a group of zombies that notices their presence. These were rank 2 zombies, so they'd be tougher. Jin Hai steps forward, saying they were weak monsters, which impresses the MC. He raises his axe and tells them to watch as he'll behead the monsters. The zombie leaps toward Jin Hai, startling him. He didn't know the zombie was that fast. The zombie was almost at his face when he realizes he had underestimated his enemy. But before the monster reaches him, the MC's spear has already exploded right into its head, taking it out instantly and leaving Jin Hai confused. He looks back, and the MC is holding the spear. He thanks him for the help, and the protagonist says it was nothing. He charges at the rank 2 monsters because they offered more XP. He needed to farm more. The monsters snarl and advance to attack the protagonist too, but they are suppressed by Lin Xiu, who is wielding his spear with such mastery that the monsters are defeated with just 1 strike. The teammates are amazed. Was he really just a high schooler? Jin Hai sees that he can wield the very heavy spear with extreme ease. Suwon says they shouldn't just stand there watching. She draws her sword and says that these rank 2 monsters require some caution to handle. The teammates confirm and move forward to annihilate the group of monsters. Suwon slices a zombie in 2, while the other 2 attack the monsters they encounter along the way. A scream echoes through the area, catching everyone's attention, and Lee is startled, asking what that sound was. They're gathered in the middle of a square as the sound continues. Lin Xiu shouts that the zombie lord is calling for help and summoning more zombies. His teammates are confused, but a horde of monsters starts arriving. It was truly an absurd number of zombies. Would they be able to handle this wave of monsters? Suwon says they mustn't panic. They first need to use the distance they have, so it's best to start shooting. Everyone pulls out their weapons and aims at the monsters, and they start firing without stopping. The monsters are hit but continue advancing, getting closer to the MC's group. He's able to take out several zombies, gaining a lot of XP until he reaches level 12 and gains 12 more potential points. Lin Xiu has managed to reach over 800 combat points. He adds 6 points to strength, and the other 6 to agility, reaching rank 1. Now he's practically an official martial artist, and can use his rage ability 3 times a day. This doesn't increase with his level. The group kept shooting incessantly, and Suwon warns them to prepare for close combat. She draws her katana from its sheath, invoking her martial technique, the destructive airstrike, slicing several zombies in half. The rest of the group shouts to charge at the monsters. This makes the protagonist nervous. He yells at his companions not to steal his XP, and they wonder why he's so happy there. He takes a low jump and defeats several zombies at once with a single blow. The group notices there are zombies behind him as well, and their numbers keep increasing over time. There are too many zombies. They can't let themselves be surrounded. Suwon yells for them to retreat. They run to the side, towards an abandoned building in the city. They manage to gain some distance and resume shooting at the approaching zombie horde. Then they manage to enter the building. Lee starts lowering the steel gate and calls out to the MC and the leader, telling them to get inside the building quickly. Suwon says the zombies are too close. They might not be able to close the gate if they come in, so she orders Lin Xiu to go first while she holds them off. She runs to the gate but realizes Lin Xiu didn't go with her, so she shouts, asking what he's doing. The MC apologizes, saying he's not in the habit of letting girls help him escape. She shouts again at the MC, and we get a close-up of her, and she's in a short skirt and crop top during a zombie battle. This one's got guts. Hygiene grabs the leader by the arm, but she asks him to let go. She can't leave Lin Xiu in danger alone. He shouts for her to look. The zombie horde is closing in on the MC, but he's no longer attacking. Lin Xiu holds his spear and begins to use his 100 birds against the Phoenix martial technique. Fire spreads, hitting all the zombies at once, destroying them immediately. Several monsters are struck, and a massive explosion happens in front of the MC. The 3 make the Enel shocked face, wondering what kind of insanely strong technique that was. The MC is incredibly powerful. Hygiene yells for the MC to get into the building. As he passes through the gate, his companions begin to lower it. I can already see this Hygiene will be like that Seong Yujiro wannabe from the Tower Guide. The gate finally closes, and everyone is confined inside. The monsters begin pounding on the gate, which starts denting from the sheer number of blows. The warriors stand by, waiting to see what will happen. Suwon says the door won't hold much longer. One of the companions shouts, pointing out a staircase leading to the 2nd floor and an iron fence that might protect them. The door is starting to give. They have little time to escape. The gate finally breaks, and the monsters start entering. The number of them is massive. That gate was too weak, and the leader shouts that they need to run to the second floor. The monsters chase after the MC's group, and they dash away. They manage to close the door, leaving the monsters outside, and Suwon orders everyone to go up the building to survey the area first. The priority is to get rid of any hidden dangers. The group gradually ascends the stairs, checking for any monsters, and Lee notices something resembling a mummy facing them. It's a room filled with various cocoons and decomposing people everywhere. Lee asks if these could be mutant spiders there, but something falls onto his back, scaring him. He reaches back, trying to grab whatever landed on him, but Hygiene uses his axe to remove the thing from his friend's back. A rank 1 black spider is in front of them, and the MC alerts them to its presence. Hygiene yells that Lee is unlucky, while the others watch the spider, but Hygiene sees something that terrifies him. He shouts for the leader. There are several rank 1 spiders on the ceiling of the room they're in. Chaos ensues as the spiders approach the MC's group. Suwon shouts for them to flee to the 3rd floor. They promptly head back to the staircase they came from, which becomes a problem, as the spiders are also coming from above, surrounding them all. They start throwing webs over the entire group, but she warns of the spiders coming from above and leaps into the attack, slicing one in half. Each blow from a group member puts a spider to sleep forever, but there are just so many. Lin Xiu notes that the building has only 4 floors, and the stairs they used could lead them to the rooftop. They needed to get there. The protagonist starts climbing the stairs, cutting down every spider that appears in his path, until he reaches the door and kicks it open. The team members manage to get through the door safely, and apparently, there were no monsters there. Lee manages to close the door. He was very tired, and Suwon tells everyone to rest there to recover. The zombies would leave once they could no longer see them. The MC stands on the building's ledge, looking at the landscape, and Suwon approaches him. There were many zombies in the area around them. It was truly an uncountable number. They look down and notice something. A group of garlic-toothed wolves, probably the poor cousins of saber-toothed ones, were attacking the monsters in the area. A battle between the 2 types of monsters begins, and both Suwon and the MC are confused by what's happening. Why were the monsters fighting each other? Now that the monster battle had started, Suwon realizes this might be a great chance for them to escape. But the protagonist is still wondering why an evolved beast would be fighting against the zombies in that area. The leader yells for everyone to get their things ready because it was time to go down the building. The subordinates are still recovering and ask if they're going right now. Lin Xiu approaches them, and she says no, they first needed to escape the surroundings and then, after resting enough, complete the cleaning mission. There were still a few remaining monsters inside the building, and it was necessary to eliminate them quietly so as not to attract the zombies' attention again. Suwon and Lin Xiu sneak up on the zombies from behind, weapons in hand, and defeat them easily. Using hand signals, the MC indicates that the area is clear, and they manage to leave the building silently while the battle between the monsters continues in another part of the city. The MC is at the front, leading the group, and tells them to come closer. He stops at a corner, watching the battle between the wolves and the zombies, but the beasts notice their presence and look in the direction of the group. They'd been spotted, and the beasts, which were rank 2, charged to take them out. With one strike, Lin Xiu takes down one of the wolves, while Suwon takes out another without much difficulty, but still silently. Li and Hygiene also defeat some monsters, though making more noise. The others also take out the monsters without much trouble, and they finish clearing the area. Lin Xiu looks back, and a rank 3 garlic-toothed wolf is approaching, with a combat power of 850, slightly higher than the MC's. Suwon is impressed and asks what that was, and Lin Xiu replies that it's the Wolf King. The wolf throws away the zombie it was holding in its mouth and prepares to attack. The MC warns that they need to be ready, but the monster is incredibly fast. In the next instant, it's already in front of one of the guys in the group, a bald one. Why is it always the bald one who has to get hit first? He kicks the wolf in the face. Does this count as animal abuse? It doesn't matter. What matters is that he manages to escape its attack. But when he goes in for a counterattack, Lin Xiu yells, telling him to dodge instead of attacking because the wolf is rank 3. The strike against the beast has no effect. In fact, it ends up bending the bald man's sword. He is shocked by the hardness of the monster's skin, but before he can react, he already loses his arm to a single bite from the Wolf King. Suwon shouts, "No," and prepares her strike to take out the monster once and for all as it howls. She uses her destructive air strike against the wolf, and hits it squarely, but the damage wasn't very effective, as the wolf is already on top of Suwon in the next instant, mouth open, ready to devour her. The protagonist's spear hits right next to the monster's head, and the girl thanks him for saving her life. Lin Xiu warns about the hardness of the monster's skin and that everyone should be very careful. The boy begins to thrust multiple strikes into the monster, but it seems the damage is still not enough to take it down. The MC seems excited to see that it's resistant to his attacks, so he tells it to taste his next move. He begins to summon his full power attack. and with a vertical slash from bottom to top, he makes the monster fall backward. The other members of the group cheer, saying they had defeated the monster. Its fall creates a massive dust cloud. Lin Xiu warns that it hasn't been fully defeated yet, and notices the system hadn't confirmed the monster's defeat. The air turns red, and the monster uses its bloodlust skill. Its eye widens as it charges forward with full force. This was a special attack from a rank 3 monster, a berserker attack. The MC hadn't expected it to have such a powerful skill. He shouts for the rest of the group to dodge the attacks, but a huge explosion occurs. The soldiers are thrown backward by the force of the impact but seem to have avoided taking damage. Lin Xiu is thrown against the wall with full force, breaking it in the process. Even though he tried to dodge the blow, he still got badly injured. Fortunately, the system warned him about the attack beforehand. Otherwise, he would have been eliminated. The soldiers are getting back on their feet, and the monster seemed tired after using that powerful attack. It was even panting. Once again, it uses the bloodlust skill and lets out a gigantic roar. The monster jumps over the soldiers and was already coming down for a second attack. The MC is desperate but doesn't lose his composure. He begins using his 100 bird skill, shouting that he's not afraid of the wolf. Flames start emanating from his weapon, and he unleashes his skill, which explodes on the monster while it was still in the air. Once again, the MC is thrown backward, hitting another wall, but at least the system informs him that this time the wolf has been defeated and he earned 8k XP. Lin Xiu was injured but happy to have eliminated the monster. The soldiers approach him, amazed at his strength and for defeating a rank 3 beast. Suwon asks if he's okay, but before he can respond, another monstrous roar is heard by everyone. A humanoid silhouette appears in front of them. It jumps and lands near where the wolf had been defeated. It was a rank 2 zombie leader. He warns that the zombie leader was summoning more zombies to attack them. It was likely he had done the same when they had to flee into the building. The monster stands looking at the wolf lying on the ground, defeated. It plunges its hand into the wolf's head, grabs its core, and simply devours it in front of everyone there. The soldiers are shocked. Could it do that? Would it evolve from that? The zombie begins to grow even more, and its combat power is rising. Lin Xiu sees it was about to become another rank 3 monster, and alerts his companions. Suwon shouts, stunned. Could this really be happening? Was it going to evolve? The protagonist charges at the monster, shouting that they need to defeat it before it completes its transformation. The monster's eyes open, and they're red. It lets out a roar that simply calls an almost endless horde of zombies to the place where they were. The soldiers gather in a single spot, covering each other's backs. This had become a huge problem. They were surrounded. Lin Xiu shouts to his companions to hold off the zombies. He would handle the leader on his own. If they can defeat the zombie leader, the summoned ones will disperse. But if he completes the transformation, everyone there would be in serious trouble. Suwon then agrees and shouts for him to be careful as Lin Xiu advances toward the zombie leader. Both the MC and the zombie leader prepare to attack. Lin Xiu manages to dodge the zombie's blow and strikes with his spear on its chest, but its skin was much tougher than the wolf's. The zombie gives a mocking grin. Even so, the MC doesn't give up and summons his 100 birds technique against the phoenix while his spear is in the monster's body. Before he can finish, the monster leaps backward, and several zombies stand between the two of them. They move forward to attack Lin Xiu as the leader commands them. The protagonist was tired. That technique drained a lot of his stamina, and he needed to defeat that zombie group as quickly as possible. He decides to use the silver martial technique. Lin Xiu holds the card in his hand and touches it to his forehead to absorb the technique. If he could quickly master this technique, it would be great. The storm burst technique. It had to be very fast. It was hundreds of attacks in a short time, and the enemy wouldn't be able to block it. A soldier shouts for Suwon to look at what the MC was doing, and she asks if he's crazy for learning a martial technique at such a crucial moment. The monsters were almost reaching the protagonist when he opens his eyes and uses the technique. Storm explosion of the pear blossom. The attacks are extremely fast, and the monsters are thrown back by their speed, but it was still only 3 spears at a time. He needed more. The boy prepares to use the technique again, and once again he can only achieve the speed for 3 spears, so he decides to try again. Lin Xiu managed to create 4 spears this time, but it was still far from enough for him, so he decided to use it once more. Hai Jin was terrified by the MC's ability to learn and assimilate a new technique in the midst of a battle, and Suwon was fighting by his side. Thinking he was probably crazy enough to achieve such a feat, he had already reached an absurd skill level despite being so young. The leader shouts to the soldiers that they could not lose to a high schooler. They feel motivated, not wanting to lose to the MC with such a vast difference, so they head into the fight. Lin Xiu managed to create 5 spears with the explosive technique. The zombie leader was behind the horde of monsters, but 5 spears were the MC's limit at that moment. Still, it didn't matter. The leader's subordinates were destroyed, so now it was his turn to be defeated once and for all. The boy charges at the zombie leader with full strength, using the pear blossom explosion technique again. The zombie raises his arms in a futile attempt to protect himself from the attack, but the blow strikes him squarely, causing a massive explosion in front of him. He had managed to block with his arms, but it was very challenging to maintain his stance to avoid getting hit in a critical spot. The MC looks again with analytical eyes and realizes he had finally completed his evolution. The problem had just gotten a lot bigger. The zombie was much stronger than he had been before. Not even the combat power of the Wolf King was that high. The protagonist shouts at the zombie, saying his skin was too thick. The zombie seemed pleased with the compliment, and the system shows that his combat power is now 805. He was at rank 3. Linshio says he has to take a risk. The two charge at each other, the MC with his spear and the zombie with bare hands. The boy swings a horizontal strike but misses. Then the zombie lifts his leg to stomp on the protagonist as if he were a defenseless bug. Linshio dodges the stomp to the side, but knows that if he doesn't kill this monster soon, it will keep summoning stronger zombies. The situation would only get more complicated over time. He had no choice. He would have to use that technique. The protagonist then uses his Fury technique, and his attributes are boosted for 10 minutes. Suwon is even more impressed with the MC's tricks. His aura had become even stronger. The protagonist looks at the zombie and says that even if he managed to withstand his pear blossom explosion technique, this version would be better. Combining the techniques, the protagonist charges at the zombie, and this time, he cannot use his arms to defend. He was taking the full force of the blow. Linshio realizes that his strikes are finally effective, and he also feels that with the Fury active, he becomes one with his spear. So if that were the case, he would use his secret art. With a single strike of his spear that was reddened with power, the zombie raises his arms to block the blow, but it won't be enough. Linshio uses the explosive strike, and this time he manages to create 7 spears that hit the zombie directly, piercing through his body. Suwon was astonished. Even with just 1 spear, Linshio had managed to cause the damage of more than 5 combined spears. The zombie leader had been completely defeated after that. The MC had reached level 13. He is thrilled with the level increase and asks the system to allocate all 13 points to strength. Then he turns to his companions and says it was time to annihilate all the zombies. The rest of the mission apparently went smoother for the MC's group. They were all defeating various monsters, until finally, the mission was over, and they rest among the pile of bodies. Even though excited by the battle, they acknowledge they couldn't have done it without the MC. Suwon approaches the MC and asks if he's okay. His abilities had increased significantly. Had he used any drugs? It was far too dangerous to rely on them excessively. The protagonist gets nervous but explains that he didn't use any drugs. It was simply one of his martial techniques. She asks how he managed to pierce the zombie's body with the same technique that hadn't been effective before. He says he's not entirely sure, but he felt as if he had become one with the Silver Soul. Suwon then asks if it's possible he had fully mastered his secret art, which leaves Linshio puzzled. She explains that secret arts are attained when a martial artist's cultivation reaches a certain level, making them even stronger. Even a lower-level artist could become much stronger with this understanding and wouldn't lose even to a silver-rank martial artist. These arts aren't easily grasped. On average, only 1 in every 1,000 artists manages to reach this level. Linshio thinks it's great and asks if this understanding would allow him to unleash the technique's full potential at the gold level. Suwon ignores the question and says it's already late. It would be best to return to the top of the building and rest for the night. The other soldiers agree. Night falls, and they are cooking the rank 3 wolf's meat. The MC finds the meat delicious, and Suwon comments that he doesn't seem very experienced in hunting. All evolved monster meats were excellent, and didn't suffer from the pollution virus. The MC is indulging in the meat. Suddenly, Linshio asks the leader if she knows anything about the Saint area. She explains that it's one of the 5 strongest academies. Students there are all considered geniuses in other schools. The boy didn't know that the Saint area was an academy, and Suwon continues, explaining that the minimum requirement to enter is to be a rank 2 martial artist, something almost impossible for ordinary youths. Linshio thinks to himself that reaching rank 2 as a martial artist is only a matter of time for him, thanks to the system, and he recalls the girl he saved. A new day dawns, and the leader is giving instructions to the soldiers. They had to go deeper into the city and eliminate all monsters and zombies. Lee points at a creature and asks what kind of monster it was, and she looks in the direction he pointed. Something was clinging to the wall, and as they look more closely, they realize it's a zombie that can walk on walls like a spider. It has 780 combat power. These were rank 2 zombies, the crawlers. They specialized in climbing and wall scaling but were too slow to be a real threat to them. Hygiene was aiming to eliminate them from a distance, but as he fires, the MC shouts that he shouldn't shoot. Unfortunately, it was already too late. The shot grazes the monster and hits the wall. It managed to dodge. But wasn't it supposed to be slow? How did it dodge a bullet? Hygiene is shocked, and the MC explains that these crawlers were different from the usual ones. In reality, they were very fast. Lee asks why they seem so slow if they're actually fast, and Lin Xiu explains that it's deliberate to deceive their prey, making them underestimate them. The monster looks in their direction, and in a leap, lands on the ground. Drawing her sword, the leader explains that they've already caught the monster's attention. It's time to prepare for the fight. The monsters leap forward, and the soldiers begin firing at them. Several bullets manage to hit the zombies. Suwon tells them to be cautious because the zombies move very fast, so they should eliminate them as soon as they get close enough. She uses a spatial shattering slash and cuts several zombies into pieces, landing in a very cool pose. The other soldiers advance to kill the remaining zombies, but one jumps on a soldier's back, who doesn't notice the monster and gets bitten on the shoulder. Suwon shouts for Dong, the soldier who was bitten, and the soldiers shout for everyone to stay alert, as the zombies were coming down from above. There were many, and the soldiers were struggling to deal with them all at once. The MC was using his spear to stab through them, but he suggests to the leader that they retreat to a more open area. This way, the zombies won't be able to attack from above. The leader agrees, and they begin retreating from the depths of the city, still pursued by zombies. They reach an open area and stop in the middle, with zombies surrounding them again. Suwon shouts that if they don't want to be buried there, they should go all out against the monsters and eliminate as many as possible. The battle starts again, with the monsters on the right and the heroes on the left. Someone falls to the ground. It was Hygiene. He was exhausted at the end of the battle and had never imagined defeating so many crawlers. Everyone wanted to rest in the end. The MC is drinking something and is also very tired. If it weren't for the XP, only idiots would fight this much. A green light approaches them at full speed, and the MC notices it coming. He manages to dodge the attack coming from behind by ducking, and immediately prepares himself with his spear. He strikes forward, but the blow is blocked by someone wearing a hood. A man with white hair and red eyes comments on the MC's incredible reaction time. He was a shadow assassin. His name was Wu Ji, rank 3. Lin Xiu asks who he is. Obviously, he already knew, but he couldn't just say he had this information there. It would be dangerous. But he simply responds that people about to be eliminated don't need to know his name. Yet the MC already knew, as the system had informed him. The soldiers approach and ask who he was, questioning how he dared to attack federal soldiers. The man had a lot of nerve to act like that. He replies that his target was only the protagonist, and they shouldn't interfere because it wasn't their problem, unless they wanted to die. Suwon responds that the MC was a federal soldier. If he eliminates him, he would make the army his enemy. With a simple movement, he commands the woman to die, and an attack comes from his weapon, similar to the one the MC had seen and dodged. Suwon uses her spatial cut, and the two techniques clash midway, causing a huge explosion, but she is thrown back in the process. The soldiers shout for her, and they all charge at the assassin, who doesn't even bother to dodge. The assassin uses his silver technique, the extreme slide, which creates a kind of blue fire covering the entire area around him. The soldiers can't even get close to him, and try to defend themselves from the technique's strikes with their weapons. Soon, they deduce that he must be rank 3. The protagonist glances back and begins to run. The assassin notices this and says he's quite pragmatic for abandoning his friends and fleeing, but he could never escape his grasp. The mysterious man vanished, chased after the protagonist, and left the soldiers behind. He had no interest in taking everyone out there. Suwon stands up from the ground and says he was very strong. Lin Xiu would not stand a chance against him if he fought alone. Hygiene asks what they should do. The MC had deliberately distanced himself from them so they wouldn't get hurt in a fight against the mysterious man. But she doesn't care, ordering the soldiers to go after them immediately. Anyone who dares touch one of them in front of Starshine's soldiers would have to pay with their life. The MC is still running, drawing the assassin away from his comrades, and the assassin asks if he really thought he could escape him. The protagonist stops and asks him who said he was trying to escape. He just wanted to find a place where no one would interfere so he could finish off the assassin without distractions. The man is furious and calls the protagonist arrogant, saying he would turn the MC into minced meat right there. The MC asks if it was the Tang family who had sent him there to end his life. But the man says it doesn't matter who sent him. He was about to die, and he was thinking about revenge on the Tang family. The protagonist confirms, saying yes, he planned to get revenge on them, but before that, he would finish off the assassin first. The MC lunges with his spear at the man's face, and he dodges, but realizes the protagonist was very fast. He pulls back, moving behind the protagonist, dodging his strike. The man thinks that the boy had a strong fighting spirit and a killing intent that even made his heart race. While the protagonist thinks the way he dodged the spear was very strange. Could it be some rare martial technique? Lin Xiu readies his spear again, and the assassin prepares his daggers. This feeling made both of them extremely furious. The fight begins. They are very close to each other, but without landing any blows, only canceling each other's strikes. The boy dodges a stab and then ducks to avoid another hit. He tries to pierce the assassin with his spear, but the man leaps backward, avoiding the strike. The man says he never imagined the protagonist could be so strong. Even those who wanted to finish him off recognized his strength, but it still wasn't nearly enough. He uses another silver martial technique, the falling flowers, an overhead strike that seemed like multiple daggers falling toward the MC. That technique was even similar to his spear technique, but among the enemy's swords, some were fake and wouldn't be lethal to him. He says he'll show the assassin what a true killing technique is. He uses his pear blossom explosion technique against the assassin, and manages to parry all the swords descending toward him. An explosion erupts from below to above, and the assassin falls to the ground, standing. He speaks to the protagonist, saying he was watching him while he was taking down the crawlers, so that technique was no surprise to him. The MC provokes him, saying that a rank 3 fighter struggling to defeat a mere student was very humiliating. But the assassin responds that he can only summon 4 spears with his current ability, so he's no match for the assassin. Once again, the protagonist uses his silver skill, but the assassin easily deflects all the spears and even mocks the MC. The man uses his silver martial technique, winged assassination, against Lin Xiao and lands both daggers on his shoulders. He begins to laugh brazenly, and the MC's arms seem paralyzed, as he can't move. The assassin begins to celebrate his victory, but the MC's face doesn't show that he has already lost. He gives a smile, and when the man looks down, there's a red stain on his chest, over his clothes. He says that's impossible. He had dodged all of the MC's attacks. The MC then explains that he had already figured him out, so he hid his true power. The system had alerted him of his presence earlier. Lin Xiao continues explaining that, in fact, he can summon 5 spears, and the last one was saved just for the assassin. The assassin starts stuttering, calling the MC despicable, but he falls backward, and the system informs him that he gained 12,000 XP for defeating the rank 3 assassin. Lin Xiao had leveled up to 14. He then asks the system to allocate 4 potential points to strength and the remaining to physique. He was badly injured. Even though the level up healed him somewhat, he was still bleeding heavily from the attack he received. He needed to stop the bleeding as soon as possible. The soldiers begin arriving and call out his name. They all approach and ask if he's okay. The protagonist acknowledges that they were there for him. Even knowing they might have to face a rank 3 fighter, they didn't hesitate to help him. The MC collapses to the ground, and Suwon cries out in distress. Night falls, and we see a cabin on the rooftop of one of the city buildings. The MC is waking up covered in bandages, and as he exits the tent, someone asks if he's awake. Suwon approaches and asks again if he's okay, and he responds that he's fine, yes, and thanks them for their help. The woman then asks why he was acting that way. They were like family. Lee starts praising the MC's strength for defeating the rank 3 fighter, and Hygiene mentions that he was a wanted man with a bounty on his head. Suwon says that, even though his arms were injured, she was able to heal them, but he would need at least a day of rest to recover fully. A month later, the mission was finally fully completed, and they could leave that place. Another soldier wonders who would need to be in that place next year. Suwon says that if it weren't for the MC this time, they all would have been wiped out by the monsters. Lee and Hygiene are with the MC and tell him he's the best, and now they consider him a brother. Someone interrupts the boys' conversation, calling for the federal soldiers, and they turn to see who it is. A group approaches, saying they remember that this time of year, they gather there to destroy monsters and zombies. Apparently, they had acquired several things on this hunt, so they could help his group and take some items from the soldiers. Suwon asks if he would really dare to rob them, even knowing they are federal soldiers. They were quite bold. The MC analyzes everyone's rank and sees they are all rank 1, except for one rank 3 hidden in the group. He had almost 2,000 combat power. The MC warns of the rank 3's presence, which scares the soldiers. The man then shouts at the MC to shut up and pulls a sword from his back. It was taking too long, and it was making him irritated. Lin Xiao realizes that the rank 3 fighter was there solely to take his life. He points his sword at the protagonist, and says he only wants that boy. The other bandits could handle the remaining soldiers. Suwon recognizes the rank 3 fighter as the lone wolf, Diayu. Upon hearing the name, Hygiene mentions that he had heard this lone wolf had massacred a camp. The leader says there's no one else like him. Several of her comrades had perished under his sword, and he would attack them even knowing they were federal soldiers. Diao says that taking out federal soldiers was like ending the lives of dogs. This guy doesn't like dogs, so he can't be a good person. Suwon draws her sword and shouts that she will defeat Diayu right there, but the protagonist steps forward and asks the leader to leave him to him. Lin Xiao speaks to Diao, asking if he was sent by the Tang family, and informs him that one of his companions had already been defeated by him. He doesn't want to be compared to the assassin. Even though they're both rank 3, he claims he is much stronger. He strikes the ground with his sword, causing a fissure, and a power surges from the sword toward the MC. Lin Xiu manages to dodge but acknowledges that the man was indeed very strong. The sword he wielded was even heavier than the Silver Soul. Diao delivers another blow, which the MC blocks with his spear, and the leader shouts for the soldiers to handle the other bandits. Afterward, they would assist Lin Xiu. They didn't need to go easy on Diao Yu's henchmen. They charge at the villainous group, and a battle erupts between the two sides. The protagonist uses his explosion technique, but Diao Yu holds off the attacks with his sword. With a psychotic grin, he says it's a pity. Even if the MC could summon spears and injure him, it wouldn't be enough. He then offers to demonstrate what a true martial technique is. Holding his sword back, he unleashes a silver martial technique, the crescent cut of the Black Star. But what a terrible name for a technique. The attack was powerful, and the MC knew it. He didn't have the strength to block such a high-level strike, so he starts thinking he might die. Then he realizes he has no choice. He's going to have to use his trump card. The protagonist invokes his fury, and Diao Yu's technique begins to push him back. Suwen shouts, looking in the direction of the MC. Hai Jin also shouts, and Diao begins to wonder aloud if he had already been shredded by his technique. But as the dust begins to settle, the MC's silhouette appears. He was still standing. His clothes were mostly gone, except for his pants. Why do the pants never tear? If they're so strong, shouldn't the whole outfit be made of the same material? Diao charges at the protagonist and asks if he consumes some forbidden drug to survive the attack. He found this much more interesting. Diao's sword and the protagonist's spear clash once again, and the MC realizes that even with fury, he still wasn't a match for Diao Yu's strength. He was already at the peak of rank 3 martial arts. Diao acknowledges the protagonist's strength and resilience, but he doesn't stop attacking. He prepares another sword strike, and the protagonist is alarmed by the aura the man was emanating. Then he uses another silver martial technique, the triple whirlwind, directed at the MC. Diao Yu smirks and says that was the first cut. The protagonist panics and raises his spear higher to defend himself. His strength wasn't enough, so he's thrown back. The blow was so overwhelming that it threw the protagonist into a wall. The damage must have been significant because it caused an explosion and another cloud of dust. The MC was coughing. Even his spear couldn't fully withstand the blow. It was beginning to crack. But Diao wasn't done yet. He uses the technique again, but this time it's the second cut. The red aura had grown even more intense. The protagonist still had one more ace up his sleeve that he wanted to save, but he would have to test this skill now. He uses his explosion technique once again, but Diao says it was useless against him. The MC replies that he shouldn't rush to judgment, along with this technique. He would combine it with his technique of the 100 birds against the phoenix. After a month of battling, his 100 birds technique had reached the silver level, allowing him to combine them. Diao's reaction was one of certain fear. He was scared by the combination of two silver techniques. The explosion and shockwave are enormous. The MC is thrown backward and hits the wall once again. Diao is still standing, but he says that attack was quite strong. It was a shame that the triple whirlwind technique had the ability to absorb the opponent's technique and become even stronger. The red aura reappeared on his sword. The man says that the MC's attack was powerful, so his third slash would become even stronger after absorbing it. He then uses the third slash of his technique. The red aura spreads around Diao Yu. The protagonist knows that the strength of this attack was too much. He might not survive it. But no, he can't die. It's not his time to die. A familiar feeling appears once again. Was it because he was on the verge of death, or was it because he had used rage again and this happened? It was a feeling that made him feel one with his spear. This kind of magical realm was strange yet familiar at the same time. The MC grips his spear, starts spinning it, and says that now he'll show Diao Yu the true storm explosion of pear blossoms. He uses his secret art, and blue lightning begins to appear around him. And with impressive speed, multiple spears pierce through Diao Yu, with a true understanding of his explosive technique. The MC is on the other side, behind the man. He couldn't believe it, that technique. There was no way it was the secret art. He doesn't even finish his sentence, and the system informs that Lin Xiu has defeated another rank 3 martial artist and earned 18k XP. Finally, the protagonist had reached level 15. He begins to fall forward from exhaustion. Both of them are on the ground, but only one was alive. Now on the mission transport ship, the protagonist wakes up again, covered in bandages, and Suwen says he's finally awake. He had fainted and slept for 24 hours. Lin Xiu asks the captain if they are on the aircraft. She confirms that they are. The mission was already complete, and they were returning. She then hands him a blue card. The MC asks what it is, to which she replies that this card has 3 million Union coins, his reward for taking down 2 wanted assassins. The protagonist feels grateful and says he'll be able to buy new gear, but she says she was just doing her duty, and that he's obsessed with money. Lin Xiu thanks her once again and asks what he can do to repay her. She takes his hand, approaches him and asks if he could offer his body to her. The protagonist starts stammering but replies that he's too young for that. She's shocked by his response but decides not to push it. Lin Xiu asks her what day it is, and she replies it's the 12th. The MC gets out of bed and says today is the day of his test. If he doesn't get to school quickly, he could be in trouble, but she assures him they'll arrive early. At the Starshine Airport, the captain is counting the survivors from each team. 4 survived from Team 2, 3 survived from Team 7, and he approaches Team 4. He walks up to a soldier, saying he did a good job and was worthy of receiving a medal, and the soldier thanks him. Lin Xiu remembers that this medal granted various societal benefits to its bearer. Even the police couldn't detain someone with a medal for no reason. The captain approaches the MC with a medal, saying he did well. His team had the most survivors, and he took down 2 wanted assassins. The soldiers nearby were in disbelief. This young man had defeated 2 rank 3 assassins. His team had the best performance on the mission. The captain says that a month ago, he wasn't even a rank 1 martial artist, but he's progressing rapidly, and asks if he'd like to become a federal officer. The MC apologizes but says he'll have to decline. He's still in high school and wants to go to university. The captain laughs and says he forgot that he's still in his 2nd year, but if he's still interested, he could seek him out after college. Suwon watches this scene and realizes he's still a boy, yet strong enough to defeat 2 rank 3s. She wanted the MC for herself. Li Yi is hugging Lin Xiu. When Suwon asks if he wouldn't give his big sister a hug too, she rushes at him and hugs him, pressing his face into her. Party balloons, nearly suffocating the MC. She asks him to remember to visit them when he has some free time, as they will always be siblings who fought together to survive the mission. The Starshine Academy's semi-annual competition was about to begin. Everyone participating was instructed to go to the arena and start fighting. The teacher was looking for the MC. If he was late to the semi-annual competition, he might be expelled from the academy. Could he have been killed? The chubby friend of the protagonist asked the teacher where Lin Xiu went to train and why he hadn't returned after a month. The teacher simply replies that they should wait a little longer. Someone is thrown out of the arena, and the paramedics arrive to help the student who had been thrown out. It is announced that the winner of that fight was Tang. With this victory, he re-entered the school's top 100. A student comments that he heard Tang had gone to train on the path of death, and another bystander mentions that place was like hell for anyone. The next fight begins, and this time our protagonist is called to the arena. He was being summoned to Arena 15. The chubby friend and the teacher are extremely worried because he still hadn't arrived. If he took too long, he might lose his spot in the academy. Lin Xiu is called again, but he still hadn't shown up. His opponent was named Qin Xiao, and he was already confident that the MC was too cowardly to appear. The referee announces that if the MC doesn't show up within the next 10 seconds, he will be automatically considered a forfeit. Lin Xiu appears the next moment, saying the countdown wouldn't even be necessary. Jumping and landing on the arena, the protagonist announces he's there. He lands smoothly, but there's something strange on his back. Could it be a new spear? The teacher scolds the protagonist, but he's happy that he finally showed up to fight. The chubby friend is also happy and says that he loves to make a last-minute appearance. And Zhang Yi notices that even though he was gone only a month, he seemed much stronger. Tang notices Lin Xiu is back. He had survived the Shining Tower, but in his opinion, that was even better. This time he would personally send the MC to hell. That's his dream. Let's see how reality will go. Chen and Lin Xiu stand in front of each other, and the referee starts the fight. Chen tries to provoke the MC by saying that just because he managed to defeat Tang, he couldn't think he'd be a match for an opponent like him. Lin Xiu shows his pinky finger to the boy and says that even though he's ranked 100 in the school, to him, Chen was nothing but a 0. Qin Xiao is extremely offended and enraged by this taunt, and the fight begins. He charges at the protagonist, wielding a weapon that looks like a kind of axe with a blade as big as the handle. Lin Xiu catches the axe strike by gripping the blade with his hands. The boy is confused and frightened, and the protagonist kicks him, saying he could handle him with just his bare hands. Chen falls to the ground from the kick, but stands up and wipes his face, saying that what the MC was doing was nothing but tricks. What kind of trick throws a guy so far? Chen uses his bronze martial technique, Fallen Leaves 9 style, and flames begin to emanate from his weapon. He attempts a sequence of strikes at Lin Xiu, but Lin Xiu simply says it's his turn, and uses his Shattering Fist technique. Qin Xiao uses his weapon to block the blow, but he's pushed back again and wonders why the MC's attack was so strong. Seems like his confidence is slipping after that. Agitated, the boy shouts at the protagonist, accusing him of underestimating him, and says he'd better be ready to end up in a coffin right then and there. Then Qin uses his silver martial technique, the 1000 descending flying feet. His companions are surprised he needed to use that technique so early in his first round. It was a move that required a lot of effort, and Lin Xiu wasn't even using a weapon. The MC is excited to see the attack coming his way. This was great for him because he only needed to dodge it once to fill his rage meter. And in this event, there would only be 2 fights per day for each student, so he didn't need to worry about conserving his skills. The protagonist uses his full power attack, Shattering Fist. Chin sees the strike approaching and asks what the hell that was. The gigantic energy punch hits him squarely while he's still in the air, throwing him backward, and knocking him to the ground, completely defeated. The referee announces the MC's victory, and everyone in his class is stunned by how much stronger he's become over the last month, defeating a student ranked 150th in the school. The MC's classmates go to congratulate him, and the chubby guy says he didn't know how to be discreet. He'd just beaten a student in such a flashy way, and he agrees. The boy then asks where he went to train and why he didn't take him along to get stronger, but the MC replies that he would have just been dead weight there. The chubby guy gets annoyed and tries to hit the protagonist, but the teacher laughs at the comment. Lin Xiu remembers that in his last fight, he fainted and didn't have time to check his status after leveling up, so he opens the system window. He was at level 15 and had gained a new skill, Disguise, as well as a free spin on the roulette, and finally unlocked the gene chain. The protagonist notices that the disguise skill was oddly convenient. It's almost like the system read too many novels, but he focuses on the gene system. The system asks if he wants to unlock rank 1 of the gene chain. Doing so has a 10% chance of death, 20% chance of fainting, and 30% chance of something unexpected happening. The protagonist is alarmed by this. He doesn't want to risk his life on this new system, so he asks the system to allocate the 15 points to strength. The MC is called for another match, and he's feeling the effects of putting all his potential points into strength. The academy principal was there observing the matches in the arenas. He hadn't expected Lin Xiu to survive that mission or to become so strong, so he was wondering how he'd explain this to the Tang family. He thinks the best option is to have someone cripple him immediately. He's only doing this because of Lin Xiu's own fault for provoking the Tang family. The next day arrives, and the matches are already displayed on the arena's screen, but the MC's name still hasn't appeared. They're still drawing names. Lin Xiu tells his classmates that as long as they don't have to fight anyone from the top 10 in power, they should be fine. Lin Xiu is matched against Yigu, ranked 8th, and Zhang Yi is matched against Tang Tian, who is ranked 208th in the school. The chubby guy is shocked, while Zhang Yi panics, but the protagonist has no reaction. He's quite calm. He asks who this number 8 Yigu is. The chubby guy explains that he's a third-year student who has faced all kinds of monsters and is also very ruthless in his fights. Zhang Yi wonders why he got matched with Tang Tian, who just returned from the path of death. The teacher asks them to be very careful. Their opponents will be very powerful, and the students nod to Luo. Someone near the principal mentions that Mr. Yi has arrived, and this catches the man's attention. The academy staff start greeting him, and he seems like a very friendly man, as he greets them back politely. A teacher says he arrived just in time to witness the Starshine students' combat skills firsthand, and the man sits in a chair. He asks Professor Zhang to bring the report on the top students present to give to Mr. Yi, but the old man says he's not interested in seeing that now. All he wants to watch is the competition. The referee calls Zhang Yi and Tang Tian to Arena 15. Tang Tian asks the boy if he's from Class 29, and he confirms he is, adding that he won't hand over the victory easily. Tang Tian holds his arm, which was broken by the MC, and says Zhang Yi doesn't need to surrender. To him, everyone from Class 29 should go to hell. Zhang Yi says he can try to do that and charges into the attack. The boy strikes with a vertical slash, but Tang Tian dodges easily, and he hasn't even drawn his sword from his back. He grabs the boy's arm and simply breaks it with one hand. Zhang Yi screams in pain, and drops the sword he held in his other hand. Still holding the boy's arm, Tang Tian says it's not over yet, and places one of his feet on Zhang Yi's back. He says he's going to break all his limbs, but someone shouts that he should stop. The protagonist had arrived to save Zhang Yi, and Tang Tian blocked Lin Xiu's punch with his fist. The impact of the collision was enormous. With a psychotic look, the ugly Zenitsu calls out the protagonist's name. The hatred in his eyes toward the MC was visible. Lin Xiu challenges Tang Tian at that moment, declaring he wouldn't let the boy hurt his other classmates. Tang Tian says he doesn't need to worry. When the time comes, he will personally take care of tearing all his limbs off, and then he would torture him until the end. The hatred had already blinded this guy completely, and he would take alone the beating meant for 20 people. The protagonist recalls the assassins sent on the mission to bury him, and says there's still a debt to settle, and he would make him suffer greatly. The referee shouts, asking which class the MC belongs to, stating he couldn't invade arenas casually. Lin Xiu asks if, as a teacher, he wants to see a student beaten to death in the arena. The referee, who was also a teacher, gets irritated with the question and approaches the MC. He says Zhang Yi hadn't surrendered but orders the MC to take him out of the arena to receive treatment. The nurse, who was in love with the MC, asks him to place the boy on the stretcher beside her. The referee declares Tang Tian the winner, and the medical team takes Zhang Yi for treatment. The MC speaks to the nurse and asks why he hadn't seen her around in the past few days. She gives him a cute look, trying to tease the MC and correcting him to call her little sister, but he doesn't respond to the provocation. She places her arm on his shoulder and explains that today's battles would be tougher, and she had been worried about Lin Xiu, so she personally came there. Zhang Yi calls out the MC's name and raises his still intact arm. He was crying out of frustration for not being able to endure even one of Tang Tian's attacks. He asks the MC to be careful if he ends up matched against Tang Tian, and the boy says there's no need to worry. He should focus on his recovery. He would avenge Zhang Yi in the battle against that lunatic who wanted to eliminate him. The referee calls out the MC's name and Yigu's for their battle. Finally, it was Lin Xiu's turn to fight. Everyone there wishes the MC good luck. They had high expectations for the boy. He looks at the arena where he would fight and sees a red-haired boy with a giant hammer on his back. The headmaster gives a small smile as he watches from his desk. The boy nods toward him. The protagonist had already entered the arena, and Yigu asks if he was the famous Lin Xiu. The boy was chubby and red-haired, just like the MC's friend. He was already a rank 2 martial artist at 18 years old, but still weaker compared to Zhou Diao. Even so, he was ranked 4th in power in the entire school, the genius known as the Tiger of Starshine. The referee orders both sides to prepare and starts the fight. A blue and red aura emerges from Yigu's hammer as he charges at the MC with incredible speed. He strikes the arena floor, breaking it entirely. The MC had dodged the hammer blow but was almost at the edge of the arena. If he falls, does he lose like in Dragon Ball Z tournaments? That arena was made of a special stone, as hard as metal, yet he managed to smash it and create a hole with his hammer. Yigu, raising his hammer, says the MC is agile. But no matter how agile he is, his head would be crushed in this fight, though it wouldn't be painful. The referee comments that Yigu's crushing power is truly strong. Would Lin Xiu be able to block his next attack? A boy, a classmate of Yigu, says the MC is doomed, calling it bad luck to be matched against his friend. The MC's friends glare at him. The nurse, irritated, tells him to shut up and watch the match, while the chubby boy shouts that he doesn't know who will win. He says even someone without a brain could see Lin Xiu would lose and claims that if the MC wins, he will eat the arena. This guy is going to need dentures. The nurse replies that he should prepare a live stream so everyone could watch him eat the arena. Back to the fight, Yigu Lin is delivering a downward strike directly at the MC. This time, the MC was using his spear, so the fight was truly serious. The MC dodges the attack once again and tries to pierce the opponent from the side. Yigu easily deflects the spear's trajectory and remarks that the MC was too weak, like he hadn't even eaten lunch before the fight. The MC was nervous. He hadn't expected the guy to be this strong. Would he only stand a chance if he used Fury? No, the cooldown on that ability was too high. He couldn't use it now. It was his strongest trump card. Yigu yells to the MC that if he was this weak, he should just admit defeat or prepare to go to the afterlife, then charges toward the protagonist. The protagonist uses the Pear Blossom Explosion technique to defend against the attack. This startles Yigu. He begins defending against the MC's attacks, but he still gets hit on the shoulder. Yigu is pushed back by the MC's strength. His comrades shout that Lin Xiu had injured him and are shocked by this. The nurse, feeling validated, says she told them Lin Xiu would lose, and even asks if he had figured out how to eat the arena. The boy responds that they shouldn't be so confident. Yigu wasn't fighting seriously yet. The big guy chuckles lightly. This guy was so strong he could hold a giant hammer with just one hand. Was he Thor or something? Holding his wound, Yigu says. Not bad. For him, things had just gotten interesting. Now he could actually fight a little more seriously. A twisted, psychopathic smile spreads across his face. A red aura begins to emanate from his arms, and this time he grips the hammer with both hands. The flames he emits start growing larger, and he turns into a Super Saiyan, with his red ki spreading over his entire body and hammer. The MC realizes he was actually gathering spiritual energy from the surroundings. An explosion occurs as Yigu leaps. He activates his silver technique, Tarzan Crush. What a terrifying technique name. He descends with full force, and the MC tries to raise his spear to defend. Spiritual energy was flowing through the hammer, suppressing the MC and stopping him from moving. His foot was trembling from the sheer force Lin Xiu was using to try to move. Since he couldn't dodge the attack, he would need to use a different strategy. He would face him head-on. It was his only choice. The MC uses the technique 100 birds against the phoenix, combined with the Pear Blossom Explosion, and the power was immense. The dean and teachers were shocked by the technique's power. The head of the Yi family was impressed with how the MC was using his martial techniques. A massive explosion occurs when the opponent's techniques collide. This sends the protagonist flying backward once again, but he manages not to be thrown out of the arena. Yigu Lin is laughing and says the protagonist wasn't bad at all. It had been a long time since he felt excited by a fight. The hammer's aura forms a green and yellow beast. He must be Brazilian, as he prepares an attack. He was enjoying the fight, laughing constantly, having a great time, and the protagonist was amazed at how he didn't even seem tired. Yigu Lin uses the silver martial technique, Ferocious Tiger Crush. The aura transforms into a giant claw heading toward the MC. Yigu's comrade celebrates that he decided to use his supreme trump card. Now Lin Xiu was completely defeated. The nurse yells for the MC to jump out of the arena to dodge the blow. It was too powerful, he might not withstand it. The claw hits the ground, producing an explosion that shatters the arena's special stones. A boy in the stands, pleased, says the protagonist was an idiot for not dodging the skill. If he jumped out of the arena, he might not have died. Luo and the MC's comrade, whose name I've completely forgotten, are nervous about the fight's outcome. The nurse stares incredulously at the scene, and Yigu, still laughing, shouts, asking if the MC was finally defeated after his blow. The MC coughs slightly and replies that he almost got eliminated this time, but he was still standing. He'd been forced to use fury to survive. Yigu Lin was shocked. How had he survived his most powerful technique? The MC apologizes for disappointing him, but the warm-up was over. Now it was the protagonist's turn. Wow, he really likes to say that, doesn't he? It's like he can't think of any other catchphrase. Yigu gets excited again and shouts that he'll use the same technique once more, but it's useless, and he charges forward to completely destroy the MC. He swings in Lin Xiu's direction with a spinning strike, and Lin Xiu uses his own technique to counter. It was Yigu's hammer storm against Lin Xiu's pear blossom explosion. The two techniques finally met in the middle of the arena. Yigu is pushed back and wonders what the hell was going on. He had suddenly become much stronger. The boy raises his hammer and shouts that he will not lose. He uses the hammer storm spinning technique again. The blow lands squarely on the protagonist, but it seems like he is nullifying the damage. Luo comments that they're fighting as if their lives depended on it, and the chubby guy notes that Lin Xiu had been hit by Yigu, which was bad. The nurse calms him down, saying he shouldn't talk about things he doesn't understand. Yigu Lin was about to lose. The protagonist's spear was penetrating his opponent's technique, and he was in disbelief. It couldn't be possible. He shouts that he'll annihilate the MC and uses the fierce tiger cage breaking smash. The MC uses an all-out attack and says this technique of the enemies is merely the boy's final effort. Again, the two martial artists' techniques collide. They were just two boys, but they were extremely strong. The tip of the MC's spear was a millimeter from Yigu Lin's neck, while his hammer wasn't even close to Lin Xiu. He had lost the fight. The students from Class 29 began celebrating Lin Xiu's victory, and the teacher and nurse were ecstatic that he had defeated the school's top 4. The nurse looks at the third-year boy and asks how he plans to eat the arena, raw, cooked, or steamed. The boys get annoyed but don't respond. The headmaster was shocked by Yigu Lin's defeat. The protagonist had surprised him once again, but not in a good way. The crowd was praising the protagonist for being so strong, while Yigu Lin lay on the ground, defeated, watching the scene. Hatred took over his mind as he took a small ball from his pocket and threw it in Lin Xiu's direction, shouting for him to succumb once and for all. The MC looks back and sees that it's a small bomb. Someone shouts for him to dodge, but it's too late. It was already detonating. A shadow moves very quickly from the stands, and the bomb explodes. For such a small bomb, it caused quite a bit of damage. Yigu Lin is thrown out of the arena by the explosion, but he stands up celebrating that the MC had succumbed. He really is not a good loser. The MC opens his eyes and is astonished. An old man he didn't know was in front of him, conjuring a shield that had protected him from the explosion. It was Mr. Yi. Only martial artists of rank 6 or higher could use such a powerful technique like that shield. It was simply incredible to see. The old man asks if the MC was alright, and he confirms, thanking him for protecting him. The old man is pleased to know he's alright and asks him to keep working hard because he has high expectations for him. He turns to speak with Yigu and says that it's great he has the desire to win, but resorting to such dirty tactics is crossing the line. The school's headmaster, who I thought was a teacher, runs toward the old man and asks if he was okay, and he asks if the excellent student they had recommended was the MC. The headmaster apologizes and says they will deal with this student with poor values in a strict and serious manner. The MC hears the old man's name and realizes that the headmaster acts like a puppy in front of him, so he was someone of high standing in society. The nurse approaches the MC and pats him all over, asking if he was okay. The MC asks her to stop patting him because he was fine. Professor Luo approaches and says that due to this accident, the MC's next battle has been temporarily postponed, giving him time to recover. The MC asks the professor who that Mr. Yi was, but the professor says he's not sure. He might be one of the teachers from one of the 5 major schools. He had come there to check on the Starshine students. The MC then responds that he wants to become as strong as him, while the nurse takes the opportunity to keep patting the boy. In the student dormitory, the MC had leveled up to 15, and the system rewarded him with a free spin on the wheel, and with the monthly free spin, he now had 2 spins. Lin Xiu asks the system to spin the wheel. He begins praying, hoping for a good reward. This time, he wanted a skill. The first spin lands on a sword skill. Although it's a silver technique, the MC uses spears, so he didn't need that card. The system then notifies him that he has additional technique cards and unlocks the card fusion system. He only needed 3 cards to fuse them into a new one. The boy gets excited to see a new function in his system, but he still had another chance on the wheel, so he asks the system to spin again. Lin Xiu repeatedly yells for the wheel to land on the big package. The system congratulates him for receiving a martial technique gift package. The boy happily celebrates and thanks the system. He takes the gift and opens it. Inside were 2 sword techniques, Heaven and Earth Slash and Freezing Flow Attack. He also received a 3rd technique called Burn, but it wasn't as good as the skills he already had, so he wasn't too thrilled. But he remembers that he now has 3 silver cards that he could fuse in the new system. He opens the fusion function and asks the system to fuse the martial techniques. After pressing the confirmation button, the system creates a new spear martial technique called Judgment. The MC likes the arrogant name of the technique. It seemed pretty cool. He chuckles and immediately places it on his forehead to assimilate the technique. Judgment allows the user to reflect the opponent's attack and strike right afterward. The technique's power depends on the power of the reflected attack. This technique uses strength as a source and cannot reflect attacks far above the user's level. The protagonist then remarks that while most people use shields to reflect attacks, he could use his spear to do that. Afternoon arrives, and the protagonist's next match is about to start. He is called to arena number 12, where a girl awaits him. She seems quite harmless, but we already know appearances can be deceiving. She asks the MC if he was Lin Xiu. He confirms, a bit embarrassed, as he never imagined his opponent could be a girl. She then takes out her own lav and attacks the protagonist, putting him inside the ring. He's confused by what's happening, and she says he can't escape anymore. She kisses him, but what on earth is going on? Wasn't this supposed to be a fight? The lipstick mark stays on the protagonist's face, and he's still in shock over what just happened. Then the girl simply decides to admit her defeat and forfeit the fight. She couldn't bring herself to defeat her idol. The MC was now famous and attractive. He literally understood nothing of what had just happened. But what about you all? Would you like the MC to end up with this girl? I prefer his childhood friend. The 3 who were watching his fight were also incredulous at the outcome, except for the nurse, who seemed to be jealous of the girl. The referee then declares the MC the winner as the girl walks away from the arena. The chubby guy wonders why he doesn't have that kind of luck. But the nurse is furious at the student's behavior. The chubby guy approaches the MC and says it wasn't a bad fight for him, but the boy gets annoyed and tells him to go away. Someone grabs the protagonist's shirt, and before he realizes it, the nurse kisses him on the lips without ceremony. Why on earth does this older woman want to seduce the MC? The protagonist shouts, asking what she was doing, covering his mouth in utter shock. She responds that if someone had the nerve to kiss him on the cheek in front of her, then she had to steal his first kiss. But what a crazy woman. The MC starts crying, saying that was his first kiss, and she says she'll take responsibility for it, while the bystanders are jealous of him. Back to the school tournament, 25 participants entered, and only 12 made it to the next phase. They would start the matchups. The dean was already planning to mess with the MC again, and tells himself that he had prepared a gift for the boy. The big screen shows that the MC will fight against 2 opponents at once. He is in disbelief at the school's audacity to make it a 3-way fight. And even worse, the teacher explains that they were the school's rank 10 and rank 12 in power, and since they were friends, the fight could end up as a 2 versus 1 after all. Lin Xiu realizes that this could become a huge problem if he has to fight both of them at once. Thinking it over, he concludes that if they aren't as strong as Yi Gu Lin, he wouldn't have trouble dealing with them. Now he had a new technique. The referee calls the 3 students to the arena and starts the battle. One of the boys wielded a staff, and the other had claws, so it was like fighting Donatello and Wolverine. The Wolverine wannabe uses a silver martial technique, the 9 Infernal Claws attack. Meanwhile, the fake Donatello uses his silver martial technique everywhere. Lin Xiu blocks the staff-wielding boy's attack, but Wolverine is already by his side, attacking him. The MC manages to push both of them back with a swing of his spear. He ducks to avoid the claw strike, and uses the 100 birds against the phoenix targeting the claw boy, but this time he doesn't combine it with the pear blossom explosion. This doesn't seem to have affected Wolverine much, so he uses another silver martial technique, the tornado of the remaining cloud claws. The MC's technique is dispersed by the claw boy. This fight was going to be much more problematic than he anticipated. The boy explains that this technique made him spin fast enough to nullify various martial techniques. He had already studied the MC's technique and knew he could disperse it with his own technique, and the explosion of flowers can only handle one at a time. So, he was sure to lose this fight. The shoppy Wolverine uses another silver martial technique, the cross claw of the shattered sky. The staff-wielding boy also starts conjuring a silver technique, the steel staff rotation. These were the strongest techniques of both boys, and the students watching think it's downright cruel for them to use those simultaneously. The nurse, full of indignation, watches as they not only fight 2 versus 1 but also use their strongest techniques. The MC was still confident. If the boy knew how to nullify his opponent's technique, then he also knew how to do the same. The MC conjures his silver martial technique Judgment, and, with a horizontal spin, the aura of his weapon is sent toward Wolverine's technique. Judgment absorbs the claw technique, and sends it back at the boy, who is stunned by this. The blow hits the opponent squarely, who is thrown out, and the AliExpress Donatello shouts his name. Seizing the other boy's moment of distraction, the protagonist turns to him, and uses his all-out attack combined with the pear blossom explosion. The boy is struck multiple times by the MC's spear speed, and is also completely defeated. Both lie on the ground like sacks of garbage. The referee approaches to check their pulse, and declares Lin Xiu the victor. Everyone starts chanting his name in unison, exalting his victory. He had truly won a 2 versus 1 battle, and the nurse says he was truly the strongest there. The headmaster was stunned. How was it possible for him to win a battle that was basically unwinnable? Tang Tian appears behind the teacher. Now that Lin Xiu was in the top 12, he wanted to fight him. He wouldn't have to worry about him anymore after that. The teacher then agrees with Tang Tian. Filled with anger, the boy says it was the MC's fault that he suffered in training on the path of death, and he would make him pay for everything he went through there. The referee calls numbers 12 and 6 to enter the arena. It was Tang Tian versus Lin Xiu. The moment of truth had arrived. The MC had already defeated Tang Tian before, but now both had become much stronger in the last month, making it hard to predict who would win this fight. In 1 month, Tang Tian had reached rank 2 as a martial artist. This confuses the students, as his cultivation should have been affected by the use of illegal substances. Another bystander responds that he heard he went to the path of death to train. That place was terribly dangerous. The two were already in the arena, and the MC's 3 friends were cheering for him. He turns back and gives them an okay, confident in this fight as well. Tang Tian's younger brother approaches, saying they should stop dreaming. The MC wouldn't be able to defeat him this time and would lose miserably. The chubby guy responds that he knew a loser like him would come to watch the fight, so he tells him to sit down and watch his brother get beaten up by Lin Xiu. The boy gets angry, but he calms down and says his brother had gone through intense training on the path of death, so he would easily defeat Lin Xiu. Drawing his sword from his back, Tang Tian remarks how quickly time has passed. He didn't even expect to be here after a month, but this time, he would send the MC to hell. Lin Xiu analyzes Tang Tian's stats. He was much stronger than Yigu Lin and was already a rank 2 martial artist. The MC responds to his opponent that the same thing happened to him. Now that he had a lot of resentment toward his family, he wouldn't be satisfied until he destroyed them. The two of them leap simultaneously to attack. Tang Tian's sword and the MC's spear meet, and they stare at each other with hatred. They separate, and the MC notices that Tang Tian's sword is really powerful. Tang Tian notices this and asks if he's shocked. He spent 100 million on this weapon, made from the special material of a red dwarf star, and it's better than the MC's weapon. Intending to destroy the protagonist, he had spent a great deal of money and today would offer Lin Xiu's blood to his sword. The MC manages to dodge the boy's vertical strike. Then he uses his spear to pierce his opponent, with the pear blossom explosion, but Tang Tian is dodging all the blows. The boy's footwork was impeccable, and Professor Luo says that only rank 3 martial artists could use this technique. How was it possible that Tang Tian had the level of a rank 3 martial artist? Tang Tian's younger brother laughs and asks what wasn't possible. They just needed to wait a little to see the MC defeated. Tang Tian uses his silver martial technique, upper hook slash, and hits the MC squarely, launching him upward with the power and aura of the technique. But the boy wasn't done. He charges aura into his fist and lands a critical hit on the MC. It was the shattering fist, and he had struck the protagonist head-on. Lin Xiu is thrown back, but he uses his spear as an anchor to avoid being tossed out of the arena. He starts coughing up ketchup due to the internal damage that technique caused, and he realizes that Tang Tian's shattering fist was stronger than before, more powerful than what a rank 2 would typically deliver. He was on a different level now. Lin Xiu still couldn't use fury because it was recharging, so this fight would not be easy. Tang was approaching the MC, calling him weak. Lin Xiu then summons his 100 birds against the phoenix, and Tang Tian asks if the protagonist really thought he would be afraid of his technique. He spent a lot of money to buy this sword along with several martial techniques focused solely on countering the MCs. He uses a silver martial technique, flowing water, and starts redirecting the protagonist's skill. By the end of his technique, the 100 birds against the phoenix had been completely nullified. The spectators are startled by Tang Tian's new skill, and the protagonist was irritated. This was the second skill he discovered could nullify the 100 birds against the phoenix. Lin Xiu hadn't given up yet. He shouts to Tang that he won't be able to nullify his next technique. Using both techniques combined, the protagonist charges at Tang, who says he will now find out if he can nullify the MC's combined technique. He unleashes the aura of his sword, slicing through Lin Xiu's technique. Despair starts taking over the boy as Tang Tian finds the whole thing extremely amusing. The techniques collide and start to cancel each other out, leaving only a cloud of steam in the arena. The skill had been completely dispersed. The protagonist was stunned by this. Laughing, Tang Tian says now it's his turn. Leaping through the cloud of steam, the boy charges with all his might to cut the protagonist in two. He uses a silver technique called Life Light Thief. Lin Xiu uses judgment against Tang's skill. An explosion occurs as the two techniques collide, and the MC's spear shatters into several pieces, and the strike still hits the protagonist head-on, once again. The nurse panics upon seeing the MC get hit again. He manages to stop himself once more and is shocked to realize that judgment wasn't able to reflect Tang Tian's technique. His skill was on a high level. In the next instant, the boy was already in front of the MC with his sword, striking him in the shoulder and tearing his skin. The MC grabs the blade embedded in his body and summons the shattering fist along with his full attack. The blow lands squarely in Tang Tian's stomach, pushing him far back. The boy wipes the blood from his mouth and says he shouldn't have dodged. It would have been better to be killed by the sword because it would be less painful. He charges at the MC again and, landing a punch right on his face, says he's going to crush his bones now. Tang Tian starts a sequence of shattering punches on the protagonist, who does his best to defend. His friend shouts at him to accept defeat, or he might end up being eliminated forever. But Lin Xiu refuses to give up on this fight. He takes a punch to the chin, which throws his body back from the impact. It had been a critical hit. His friends were desperate over this. The referee shouts for Tang Tian to stop, but judging by his expression, he doesn't seem like he's going to obey the referee's command. The referee asks if he doesn't see that Lin Xiu is unconscious, and then Tang Tian stops. He turns his back to the MC and says it's better to let it go. Too many people were watching that fight, and he's probably permanently crippled by now. The MC was badly hurt. This time he had lost the fight. He starts to wonder if he'll pass on after all this beating. The system appears before him, asking if he wishes to unlock the rank 1 gene chain. The odds were still the same as before. The MC was determined to win that battle. He had to get revenge on the Tang family, and he had to risk it all at that moment, so he presses yes. The rank 1 gene chain was being unlocked, and Lin Xiu's combat abilities were about to increase drastically from that moment on. The system informs him that he successfully unlocked rank 1 and that all his attributes would gain a bonus, including his combat power. He gained several rewards, including the title of rank 2 and a 5% strength increase from the title earned. Now things were about to get really interesting. The referee was about to declare victory for Tang Tian, when the MC raises his arm, and the MC's friends alert the referee that the boy had moved. He was getting up and would want to continue the fight. The referee looks back, and the protagonist was on his knees. He was recovered and felt great, as if every cell in his body was filled with power. Mr. Yi observed the protagonist in amazement. Without illegal substances and without using any martial technique, the boy had suddenly become stronger. A few months ago, he was the worst student in the school, but now he was about to reach rank 3 as a martial artist. This evolution was unbelievable. Lin Xiu was on his feet, and Tang Tian turned his back to look at him. The referee was incredulous, but Tang believes he was standing unconscious and disdains him. In the next instant, Lin Xiu was already jumping, conjuring his shattering fist right in front of Tang Tian. The Temuzanitsa says his technique was stronger than the MC's, and also conjures his shattering fist. The two fists meet, causing a shockwave around the two boys. Tang screams, frightened. There was no way the MC's shattering fist could be stronger than his, but his arm was already feeling the effect of the blow. Tang's arm explodes, revealing it was no longer a human arm. The metal wires begin to short-circuit, and the MC is shocked by the mechanical arm. Tang kneels to grab his sword and says he was like this because of the MC. His training had severely injured him, and he did this to survive. That's why he had the power of a rank 3 martial artist but was still stuck at rank 2. He couldn't get stronger than where he was. Rushing forward with his sword, he shouts that it was all the MC's fault, and he makes a horizontal strike, which the boy dodges. Lin Xiu places his hand on the ground and kicks Tang in the stomach, saying he deserved that fate. No one told him to be the weaker of the two. Tang Tian is thrown into the air by this kick, and in the next instant, The MC was already close to him with another shattering fist ready. The MC starts unleashing a barrage of punches on his opponent, and his supporters were ecstatic with this display of power. Tang's younger brother shouts at the MC to stop doing that, but he doesn't listen and continues beating the other boy. After several punches, he uses his fists to slam Tang Tian into the arena floor. The referee runs over to the two, asking the MC to stop because the opponent was already unconscious. The boy stands up, and the referee declares his victory in the fight. Lin Xiu had won again against Tang Tian, and the crowd was ecstatic from the battle. Tang Tian's younger brother was furious. The MC wasn't supposed to be stronger than his brother. The headmaster was also incredulous, while Mr. Yu was impressed with Lin Xiu's performance. Tang Tian was lying on the ground but wasn't unconscious. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a syringe. Getting up and shouting for Lin Xiu to die, he charges forward with the syringe in hand, aiming at the protagonist, but he realizes it well in advance, and manages to stop the other boy's arm. The referee shouts for him to stop because the battle was over and asks what he's holding in his hands. Tang Tian responds that it's a special gift for Lin Xiu that he brought from the path of death, a virus that would turn him into a zombie. The referee shouts again for Tang to stop because he was breaking the rules, but Tang no longer cared. He wanted to turn the MC into a zombie, so he yells for him to become a monster. With a smile, Lin Xiu says that Tang forced him to do this. He grabs the boy's arm and forces it toward his neck. The needle pierces Tang Tian's skin, and his veins immediately start to bulge. He screams in desperation as his body quickly begins to transform into a monster. The protagonist then says that now that he's become a zombie, it's time for him to be annihilated for good. Lin Xiu kicks the tip of his broken spear blade toward the boy, defeating him with a single critical hit. The younger brother screams in despair at his brother's complete defeat, and the head of the Tang family yells at the MC, asking how he dared to eliminate his son. The protagonist hadn't expected to hear that and turns in the direction of the voice. The man was filled with rage and uses a deadly martial technique against the MC, intending to send him to hell. The protagonist dodges the attack from the family head, but he turns to the side where the MC had dodged to launch another attack. At that moment, Mr. Yi appears in the arena in front of Lin Xiu, shouting at the head of the Tang family and asking how he dared. The fists of the two martial artists collide, creating a powerful shockwave between them. The family head backs away from Mr. Yi. He was shocked to see a rank 6 martial artist there. Why was someone as strong as him at Starshine Academy? The man starts saying that Lin Xiu had murdered his son and he wanted to capture him to take him to the police, asking Mr. Yi not to interfere. Mr. Yi responds that what he saw was a zombie being defeated by Lin Xiu for the safety of Starshine Academy's students. This wasn't illegal. The man doesn't respond, and the headmaster approaches the arena to try to calm him down. He raises his hand and asks for Tang Tian's body to be taken with them, and his subordinates obey. Mr. Yi intervenes and says that to prevent the virus from spreading, the body of anyone infected shouldn't be moved. Once again, the head of the Tang family loses the argument and doesn't respond. The headmaster then asks him to wait outside the arena until the police can confirm what happened, and then he could take his son's body. The MC once again thanks Mr. Yi for saving him from death. The old man says it was nothing. He hadn't done anything wrong either, and anyone who tried anything against Lin Xiu would also be against him. The family head remains silent, but inside he's furious about the situation. The headmaster and director exchange glances but also say nothing. In the federal soldiers' dormitory, the MC's comrades were watching his fight, admiring his strength. He had defeated the Tang family's eldest son. Li was worried about it. The Tang family wouldn't sit back in this situation, and Lin Xiu was in serious trouble. Suwon enters the room, saying they were informed of a zombie incident at Starshine Academy, and they should go there to investigate. The soldiers stand up to carry out the captain's order. Jin Hai gets excited to know he'll be seeing the MC again, and says he's been thinking about how he could help Lin Xiu, while Li is thrilled to be able to return to school. Suwon is also excited about the possibility of seeing the MC again. Imagine if she found out someone already stole the boy's first kiss. Would there be a fight? Someone is knocking on the MC's room door. He was still asleep when he opened the door, and it was the headmaster, identifying him as Lin Xiu. A man steps forward, showing a badge and informing the boy he's suspected of murder, then asks him to come with him. The protagonist gives the headmaster a smirk and asks if he'd really started taking action against him so quickly. Lin Xiu calls him a washed-up old man. The teacher shouts at the MC, saying that's no way to speak to him, and that a piece of trash like him should be locked up. Lin Xiu brings his face close to the teacher's and says he shouldn't even be called a teacher, but rather scum. The officer tells him he doesn't need to waste time with Lin Xiu and orders one of the officers to handcuff him and take him out. The protagonist says he has a star medal, and they have no right to capture someone like him. If they did, they'd have to deal with the federal forces. The officers are startled to hear this. The headmaster looks at them and starts shouting not to listen to the MC. There's no way a high schooler would have a star medal. He's a liar and deserves to be expelled. The men were preparing the handcuffs, and Lin Xiu says they better think carefully about the consequences of deciding to arrest him. Suddenly, several military vehicles arrive at the school. The federal officers had arrived and start shouting at the police, asking how they dared. The headmaster looks back, and Captain Suwon was there. Daring to handcuff a federal soldier decorated with a star medal was grounds for arrest. She orders her soldiers to detain everyone there. The headmaster is shocked, and the soldiers obey the captain's orders, raising their weapons to subdue the men. The headmaster is confused, trying to understand why the federal soldiers were there, and the officer says he was just following orders. The MC says he tried to warn them. The captain says she'll contact their superiors. If they weren't abusing their power, naturally, they could be released. She takes everyone into custody. Suwon is happy to see the MC again, and Lee and Hai Jin also go to greet him. They'd arrived just in time. The instructor saw the news and sent them there to help him. Professor Luo approaches and says he knew it wasn't his fault, but the Tang family was pressuring the school to punish him, so he'd be disciplined. The protagonist is shocked. Once again, he was being punished unfairly. The professor hands him an envelope, saying he received it that morning. It was an expulsion letter for what happened in the arena with Tang Tian. Lin Xiu is furious about this decision, and the professor apologizes to him, as he didn't have enough power to reverse it, but he had connections with other schools and could try for a transfer. The MC thanks him for the offer, but trying to transfer as an expelled student was very problematic. Suwon says it's okay, there's another way. The instructor said they could officially invite him to join the federal soldiers. The MC then says that if he can't finish his studies or enter university, that's the best option. But someone approaches them, saying that's not entirely the case for the MC. It's Mr. Yi, saying that, actually, there's another option for Lin Xiu besides joining the federal army. Mr. Yi steps close to the protagonist and hands him a paper, saying he could attend his school. Suwon gets irritated and whispers that the old man is trying to steal her recruit, but the other two tell her to be careful because the old man is strong. She tells the two to shut up, but the protagonist interrupts their conversation with a shout. It was a registration notice for Saint Territory School. The three soldiers shout, Saint Territory, at the same time. Even Professor Luo is shocked and shouts too. Mr. Yi explains that he's a teacher there and is responsible for recruiting new talents, and the MC meets the qualifications for Saint Territory. Lin Xiu tries to argue that he's been expelled, but the old man explains that this is a special recruitment. He wouldn't need to pass exams or complete his senior year because of his skills. He could go. The boy is extremely happy with this news, so he accepts the old man's invitation to go to the new school. It had come at a perfect time. He was expelled from one school but accepted into a better one. He remembers Luo Yu and thinks to himself that they will be able to reunite sooner than she expected. Lin Xiu then asks the old man where the school is located. He had searched online but couldn't find anything, and the notification didn't provide the information either. The old man says that he'll have to go to the end of the path of death, where he'll find people who will take him to Saint Territory. Everyone there is stunned. Would the MC really need to go through the path of death to get there? The path of death was more of an area than a path, filled with zombies and evolved beasts. It was one of the most dangerous places in the world. There were rumors of rank 10 evolved beasts in that area, and all kinds of laboratory ruins with mysterious experiments left behind during the war. The old man asks if he's scared, but he says he's actually a bit excited. The more evolved beasts in that area, the more XP the MC could gain there to level up. He'd be in paradise. The old man asks what his plan is, and he replies that he'll get his martial artist certificate first before presenting himself at the school. Mr. Yi agrees, and leaves, wishing the boy good luck. Suwon says this is amazing. He became a student of Saint Territory. The others congratulate the MC, and he thanks everyone there. The captain then invites them to celebrate this achievement at a bar. The boy asks if Professor Luo would like to go too, and he says yes, but asks to bring some friends as well. The boy agrees, already suspecting who these friends might be, and says the more, the merrier. Night arrives, and everyone is there celebrating the protagonist's achievement. The nurse is already completely drunk and happily enjoying the gathering. They toast, and she hugs the protagonist, saying that when he's settled at the new school, she'll accompany him, so she can take care of his injuries. His childhood friend is also there, wishing the MC good luck, but says she'll stay behind and catch up to him, so he should settle in quickly there. The chubby guy remarks that the MC is really lucky, with an older woman and a lowly interested in him, and Suwon's visible look of displeasure. The boy notices this, and says it seems like she also likes the protagonist. She hits him on the head hard and says that if he keeps talking nonsense, she'll beat him until he looks like a pig. Suwon stands up and asks Lin Xiu when he's going to the Black Sea territory. She moves closer to the protagonist, asking if he'd like her to take him there, as her car is stable and won't flip over, which irritates the nurse. The MC is feeling a bit cornered between the two, but he replies that he doesn't need a ride. He'll train along the path of death to increase his strength. The next day arrives, and the MC is leaving the city, walking toward the path of death with a regular spear. His last one was destroyed. When he gets his martial artist certificate, he can enter the Union's website and buy a powerful weapon. The grass in the area moves differently, and the protagonist senses a different aura. It wasn't a zombie or an evolved beast, likely a martial artist. Looks like free XP was coming his way. Something approaches from behind the MC, but he dodges the attack, which passes over his head. He turns, already with his shattering fist prepared, and hits one of the men who was behind him, throwing him far away. The other two watch this in shock. The two remaining men charge at the protagonist to avenge their young master. They were more thugs hired by the Tang family. These people never give up. The one with green hair says today's the day the boy gets boxed up, and he prepares a strike. The MC uses the shattering fist again, hitting the man in the chest, and throwing him back. Now there was only one random bald guy left. But another man with red hair appears, saying that Lin Xiu's aura was very weak. Why was he so strong? The protagonist chuckles, saying they were too hasty. He pulls his spear from his back, asking if they were from the Tang family. These guys were truly annoying. Several men appear, attacking the protagonist with the intention of putting him in a wooden suit. Lin Xiu uses the 100 birds against the phoenix technique, and defeats several of them with a single strike. The boy says that the weaklings have already been beaten. Isn't it time for the expert to show up? Someone holding a sword says that so many men couldn't defeat a mere high schooler. It was the head of the Tang family, calling all his subordinates trash. He draws his sword from its sheath, and says he'll make Lin Xiu pay for killing his son. The boy taunts the man further, saying he doesn't mind sending the old man to join his son in hell. The old man makes a vertical strike, and the MC uses his spear to block, but judging by his expression, this strike wasn't a joke. The old man is indeed strong. Lin Xiu uses his pear blossom explosion strike, but the old man dodges to the side, and the technique hits some trees behind him, leaving multiple holes. The old man looks back and acknowledges the protagonist's strength. He'd used an attack with 5 rank 2 spears each. He was at a peak of power. The old man turns back to the protagonist with a look of disdain, saying he was only using mere tricks. He uses his silver martial technique, Lunar Fang Slash, and a purple aura is launched at the protagonist. The MC manages to dodge, but that aura was incredibly strong. He just needed to endure it for 3 more minutes, and he could use his fury. The old man calls the MC a coward for dodging his strike, then says he wants to see if he can dodge now. He uses his lunar technique 3 more times in a row, and the protagonist uses 100 birds to defend. The two techniques clash, and a huge explosion occurs. The fire was close to the old man, but he starts absorbing it, which terrifies the MC. The head moves toward the MC with his flaming sword, thanking him for the fire buff. His next strike would be much stronger because of it. The old man uses a gold martial technique, the 9 Heavens Wind Dance, finally a good technique name. The others are horrendous. The protagonist is alarmed. He knew he wouldn't be able to dodge a gold martial technique. He'd have to face it head-on. Lin Xiu conjures his judgment technique to try to defend against this attack. The two techniques collide, and unlike what happened in the fight against Tang, he manages to block the attack. The old man panics, incredulous that his skill is being blocked and reflected back at him. But before that can happen, the protagonist's spear bends and breaks, canceling judgment and allowing the head of the family's ability to strike the MC directly. He's launched backward at full speed, and a smaller explosion occurs. The MC had collided with a large rock, but he was still intact. The old man charges forward, saying he wants to see how he'll fight him now that the spear is broken. He strikes the MC's shoulder with his sword, and yells at him to give in. Lin Xiu is gripping the sword by its blade to prevent it from penetrating his shoulder further, until his eye glows blue, and he says time's up. Now he'd be able to use his fury. He activates his fury ability, and the air around him starts to feel heavy. The old man is startled, and the MC says it's finally time to counterattack, beginning to charge the shattering fist. The MC lands a blow to the old man's stomach, sending him flying backward from the impact. The head of the Tang family is confused. How did he suddenly get so strong? He didn't see the boy take any substance, nor was there any technique involved. Another shockwave forms around the two, the air gets even heavier, and blue sparks start to appear. The old man falls to his knees, clutching his shoulder, exhausted. The boy walks toward the old man and picks up his sword, saying it wasn't bad. The old man starts shouting that the MC can't eliminate him. If the boy defeats him, the Tang family will hunt him down forever. Lin Xiu says the Tang family is trash. He doesn't care. He explains he's leaving the city because he received an opportunity to study at Saint Territory. This information shocks the old man. He'd been expelled from Starshine. But the boy replies that his future self isn't someone a trash family like the Tang family would dare to mess with. Our video ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye bye.